progress. And today, we're going to talk about some wild subjects. Is the government channeling aliens? What's up with this Jake Barber UFO crash retrieval? What's up with the 4chan leaks that apparently talk more about the same type of craft? What is psionics? What are the different types of ET life out there? What are we actually interacting with? Join us as we go warp speed into the woo. All for the progress of your mind, body, and spirit. I'm Dedrick Baker, joined with my brother Tyler Magmasloth and Taylor Taychilla. You probably recognize us, and if you don't, and if this is your first time tuning into the channel, I want to ask you guys to subscribe because you're going to love everything we talk about. We know you're here for a reason. You want to know all of the different cosmic subjects and understand how the human species integrates with the cosmic organization, or you just want to know, does the government have UFO crafts? We're going to go over all of these different subjects, concepts, and try to tie them into a cohesive concept frame. So we're going to do this, and we're going to have fun while doing it, so I hope you guys enjoy. If you do like what we're going to be talking about, or you haven't really heard about what we're talking about, but hit that like button just because you like the channel.
Just use your intuition. You're going to like it.
Exactly. You can feel the energy. Use your psionic Merkaba field, and you'll be able to feel the vibe. You guys want to say anything? Introduce yourself.
Does the government have UAPs? The answer may surprise you, because it's yes.
Yeah, that's what we think. That's what Jake Barber thinks. That's what a lot of Congress members are thinking about, and it's on their minds. So we think it should be on your mind too. If you don't have a real interest in this, I'm surprised you're here watching. But if you do, but you're kind of cynical, stay here, stay watching. We're going to try and lift your spirits, get some comedy going, bring a little bit of fun and games to this. Hopefully you like the thumbnail. Actually, I'll pull it up again right here for your viewing pleasure. And yeah, I don't know. This is wild times. We're entering into Clown Town 2025. Not to say that the Jake Barber story is we think he's clowning. But we just want to acknowledge here that it's about to get whip wild, and we think 2025 is going to be a blast off into the space age, into what maybe you could say the new age has kind of been obsessed about for a long time, UFOs and spirituality, this intersection. But which we're going to kind of get a cleaned up version of that type of like spiritual conspiracy UFOs. And this time it's going to make it out of the fringe and become really solidified. And the reason it's going to happen is that we have these firsthand whistleblowers and military people who are basically going to slowly provide this potentially managed disclosure, but we're getting the first sort of proof. And a couple weeks ago, this firsthand guy said this egg-looking UAP is a crash retrieval, and that it was non-human intelligence. So I think this is the start of more of this type of direct evidence, and who knows how long it's going to take to get the first image of an alleged actual extraterrestrial being from one of these like good firsthand whistleblowers that has like a legitimate background. So yeah, we're just going to be talking about all this stuff. We're going to bring some good humor to it. So welcome everybody back to the Legacy Foundation for Human Progress.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and that's one thing we do want to emphasize, because as you can see, we are the Foundation for Human Progress. We like talking about all these cool extraterrestrial subjects, but we like to talk about it from what we call a trisophic point of view, looking at things from the lens of three. We believe that in order to understand reality, you have to look at it through three different lenses, and all three of these lenses need to be focused. When you have that, not stereoscopic with two, you have that triscopic point of view, you can now perceive reality correctly. A way to put it is mind, body, spirit, thing, meaning, and value. causation, duty, and worship. It's just thinking in threes.
Truth,
So the
beauty,
entire
goodness,
universe, truth, beauty, and goodness. The entire
philosophy, science,
universe,
religion.
philosophy, science, religion. It can go
Your
on.
shirt?
You could do this forever. Yeah, my shirt. So like the universe should be perceived in three different bandwidths, and they should all be looked perceived at simultaneously in order to get a full comprehensive image. So how does this UFO subject relate to our mind, body, and spirit progress? It's really important because it explains the physicality of the universe and what it is possible, what type of technology exists, and that we can be and we are in physical contact with other ET races. In the mind, it helps us understand the galactic organization. It gives us a mental roadmap of where we are and where we're going in the cosmos. And then in a spiritual sense, it adds value to our life. We realize that we're now cosmic citizens. We realize that we have brothers in space, sisters in space, and that we're part of a galactic federation. The cosmos is teeming with celestial personalities, and we are part of this organization. We are also celestial personalities. We are, in a sense, angels in training. So, like, once you start perceiving reality through these 3 points that I just named off in the mental, the physical, and spiritual aspects, you start to progress yourself. And that's what we teach here at the Legacy. The self is nothing but a mind, body, and a spirit in conjunction. And your personality, like me, Dedrick, you, Magma, you, Taylor, your personality holds your mind, body, spirit together. And we all have a mind, body, spirit, but your personality is what it's the scaffolding that holds that together. And you're supposed to grow this every single day. So it sounds like we're just talking about woo-woo fun stuff, and we're going to have fun with it. But
It's very practical, though.
But yeah, we're trying to relate it to your personal progress so that you can function in a less distorted manner during your sojourn on planet Earth. And this is very important. This is the reason why we're here. So hope you guys have fun. We're going to get wild with it. So
I'll just say,
hold on to your seatbelts,
Yeah, hold on to that seatbelt. I'll just say the reason I think studying UAP phenomenon is practically relevant in any kind of spiritual sense is because I think at our point kind of shared between the three of us, our point in our developing our philosophy and our kind of spiritual perspective, it seems obvious that when God made us as a creator, he wouldn't have made just this one single planet in the entire cosmos. It doesn't seem efficient. And considering the fractal nature of reality, if you see a squirrel in the woods, chances are that's not the only squirrel on Earth. That life has appeared all over the planet, So like where you see a pattern, you see it reoccurring. Likewise, I think if life has developed on this world, it's likely developed on countless other worlds out there. And so then you got to ask, is civilization leading to something? Obviously, we're not, like, in the entire animal kingdom, we're something truly unique, having developed language and tools and complex transmission of data. And now our technology is mind-boggling. So, like, what is that leading towards? And is there, like, a certain threshold that maybe other races have reached where things kind of open up and you're able to go out into the galaxy and explore? And so, I mean, what I'm bringing this back to is I feel like spirituality is really just getting a sense of where you belong and where you fit into the bigger picture. And that can take the form of working on yourself, or it can take the form of getting out and forming relationships with others based on your needs. But it seems like the human race, we're not isolated. We don't have to be anyway. I mean, we may be quarantined. There may be some kind of reason why beings from other worlds maybe aren't permitted to openly visit us or something like that. I don't know, but it does seem like we are a part of a bigger cosmic family out there.
Shout out to the Cosmic Fam.
If I can use that phrase.
And if you're watching this, you're part of our cosmic family. That's what the human species is. And what's cool is a certain select few of our honorable human species members are privy to experience certain events that have to do directly with non-human intelligence or extraterrestrial beings. And that's really cool. And the way they explain the mechanisms of it happening kind of imply that this isn't only restricted to them, like top secret government officials, that it's an ability that is available to us as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's dive into this. We want to start playing some clips.
Yeah. Dedrick, you're gonna share your screen for these clips?
I was thinking if you had anything, but I got something right here.
Well, you got what, the Jake Barber clips is what you want to cover first.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then for the viewers, I think my segment is mostly going to focus on the 4chan leaks and an alleged alien interview that touches some topics that we like to talk about on this channel. Although we're going to debate the legitimacy of the document. I'm going to reveal some findings that have not been revealed yet about this document.
If it wasn't obvious.
Yeah. So we'll try and have fun with this. And D-Big, let me know when you got those clips up.
Yep. All right.
Oh, I'm still streaming. Get that out of here.
Go right here.
For the viewers, I got some funny images that I found on this 4chan thread.
Ooh.
We got these egghead fellows. Tyler, do you have like I don't know, any small interesting summary to say about the 4chan leaks without going too deep, because we're going to get into it, but I don't know if you want to give us a small primer.
Yeah, sure thing. So over this past week or so, ever since the Jake Barber interview dropped and News Nation released the footage of the egg being carried by the helicopter and all that, some anonymous users have been posting on 4chan, the most credible source on the internet, and dropping some images they had. It started with one user dropping 2 images that they seem pretty legit. I mean, in my cursory analysis of it, but then there are at least two other drops where an anonymous user is claiming to be the same person, but I think it's very likely another person. And they share some images which I think are a little more debatable. I'm just going to go out and say I think they could just be taken in Unreal Engine, 3D models, something like that. And then there's also an Antarctica footage looking down of an egg dangling under a helicopter, just almost the same thing, but way up in the air over Antarctica or something. Sure enough, it's also green, also night vision. I guess
that's
maybe
the vogue right now.
Yeah, which maybe they do these at night. I don't know, but it is kind of funny to consider. Now, every single egg UAP image is green just to fit with it. When would you really need night vision on if you're in a cave and you got a flashlight and flash anyway?
I don't know. Every time we think we can pin down a hard data point, I feel like something shifts or something else gets added to the game. No one kind of saw these psionics come, and then that adds a whole new ball game. And adding Antarctica, just the process of how it all works. The 4chan leaks, maybe it's a process we've been doing a lot longer than now. And I don't know. Let's just dive into it all. I do have this clip pulled up right now, talking about just
that
Jake
face.
Barber. Yeah, and yeah, perfect. Sorry, Ross. Just so I grew up on a lot of Ancient Aliens and the Disclosure Project. The Disclosure Project was huge when a bunch of officials came forward and testified in Congress. They were all, radar operators, satellite imagery analysis, and that was the UFO Disclosure Project. And that when I was young, I was like, yes, it's happening. This is fucking crazy. I was showing everybody, nobody cared. You know, it was back in the day when UFOs weren't really that hot,
Mm.
but it was real. And a lot of these are credible people with credentials. Uh, the person who was behind that was Dr. Stephen Greer. So I always thought like, oh, this is an awesome guy, man. He's really getting after it. He's helping push the ball forward in this entire movement. But recently, he's been getting a lot of hate. A lot of people consider him a grifter. A lot of people really don't believe what he's saying. Um, it's controversial, but he did release that one documentary. I think it was like what, CE5, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind or something,
Yeah.
where he was actually manifest. I watched it. I think I paid for it. It was a couple bucks because I really wanted to watch it. I think you can go get it now still on YouTube, right? Or somewhere, or Amazon, I forget, but whatever.
I think
You
I
can
saw it
Google
on. Yeah.
And I watched it, and it was
Amazon
really
or somewhere.
compelling. Like a lot of different colored lights that were appearing when people would meditate, almost doing like their version of psionics, you know, projecting where their location is and asking for these beings to appear, and they would appear in different geometric formations, different colored lights, and it was very compelling. But a lot of people say it was BS. I guess, isn't there like a controversial story where like he did one of these events and nothing happened, but he like hired someone to like set off flares to
Oh,
make it look
what?
like something was
Oh,
happening?
no.
I'm not sure how true that is. That was a cursory search. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the. I just think I saw someone put down like a Reddit comment, and I don't know, but since this Jake Barber story is hot right now, and he actually mentions him, I kind of want to bring that up right now. So if people
Yeah.
are thinking Jake Barber is the real deal, then listen to what he has to say for a second. Tell me if you guys can hear it.
Investigation.
Yep.
Yes.
You met Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yeah, I did.
What was the purpose of meeting Dr. Stephen Greer?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, you could say what you want about Dr. Greer, but the guy's been 30 years ahead of everyone else on a lot of the details of this subject.
So that's him right there already, backing him up,
Yeah.
saying that he's legit. I don't really know where we stand on Jake Barber as a total. Right now, we're taking it for face value, like, wow, this is hot. But in 5 years, he could be a CIA plant to throw us off.
True.
We
We'll let
don't
time
know.
tell a story.
But for now, we'll give him benefit of a doubt. And if we take him as a source of truth, the source of credibility, he's backing up what Greer does right now. And he says he's been at the forefront of the entire movement. So I don't know if that clears Greer's name and at all. I don't know. But
Kind of.
Yeah, I
Kind of.
thought that
think
was
about.
interesting. He did give Greer a shout out, and he actually mentions that he was in contact with Greer even like up to a year ago, and so it backs up Greer. Before this Jake Barber interview was sort of dropped, Greer was saying these firsthand military operators are going to come out and they're going to reveal groundbreaking evidence, and so Greer was saying that, and people were like, honestly, just people, I don't know, people complain so much on the internet. And it's just like, well, just, I don't know, just chill, man, just let it happen. And it actually happened. This is a significant, breakthrough, firsthand experiencer and whistleblower. And it really went into stuff that a lot of people, I don't think they're ready for yet when it comes to, we're going beyond the nuts and bolts element of the story here, but this story has it all, doesn't it? It goes nuts and bolts, like actual ET craft that are physical, and it also has this weird telepathic spiritual experience. So this is kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the holy grail of whistleblowers who are introducing all these things at once. I don't doubt that David Grush has had some like firsthand experience, but he's not talking about that yet. This guy is like, he's all in. He's talking about this firsthand experience.
He's
with
the guy. He's the guy we've been wanting to hear an interview from, like the actual crash retrieval program.
Yeah, he checks all the boxes. You get the nuts and bolts mechanics, the telepathic, the spiritual, angelic. Or now everybody's involved. Now, like I said, the different UFO camps are forced to talk to each other. Thank you, Jake Barber, for providing that conduit, because we've been trying to talk about that for a while. But let's keep going. He says a little bit more about Dr. Greer.
So a lot of what he says is correct.
To me, he's like the Bentwaters. Like, we had everything we needed in 1980, and now we're fishing around for morsels of that. This guy, he's been ahead of everyone. And what I find quite funny is the one thing he gets the most shit for is the one thing he's probably most right about, and that is his CE5 protocol.
So
Right there.
Yeah.
Boom. I mean, I've tried it a couple times on my own. I'll admit I didn't stay out long enough to really get results.
I have
it
a
was kind of
weird-
like, I'll try it real quick. You got something? Tachel has some
Oh, for sure.
experience?
Were you going to say anything else about your kind of your tries? Nothing happened though?
No, I need more groups of people to do it. Me and
Yeah,
Magma
more
have been
time,
planning on
yeah.
doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You got
Well, yeah,
something?
I do actually got something. I mean, believe it or not, I actually did a camping trip, and I led a meditation that was meant to be a type of CE5 meditation, and it's about 30
Yeah.
minutes. At a cool stargazing place. So I have that story, but I actually first want to start with my first time trying CE5 alone. So there's a channel called, I think it's called like Unify or Unity or something. And they do a lot of global consciousness raising, but they're also connected to like the UFO disclosure stuff. And so they were doing basically, I guess, a worldwide meditation I think they actually called it CE6. So they slightly adjusted the protocol and called it CE6. And basically they were doing an online event and trying to get a bunch of people all over the world to meditate with the same intention. And the intention was peaceful contact with these extraterrestrial civilizations, because they acknowledge that, one, we have a lot of people in the military complex that, see the national security threat side of this, and, they kind of take it very seriously, and then they're trying to, take crafts out of the air. But then there's this other side where Stephen Greer says, look, we are the like aggressors in this situation, and most of these ETs are actually peaceful. And if we reach out with a mental contact and we say, hey, we are actually peaceful, we want to have peaceful contact, he said that they will actually show up and sort of provide evidence for that group of people doing that. And so this was a worldwide meditation, and I joined this. Now, I was alone at my house. I just joined the meditation at the time, of 9 p.m. And so it's dark out. It's, 9 p.m. in the summer. And I'm just out in my front yard, and I'm doing the CE5 or CE6 meditation. I think I'm listening to the live stream maybe, or I wasn't, and I was just following the instructions that they gave, like, meditate, clear your mind, and then project your thoughts towards the atmosphere, towards space, because the premise is that consciousness, your own thoughts in association with the thoughts of all the other people doing the same meditation is going to create like a sort of Wi-Fi signal, a little flashing node. And the ETs, which are more tapped into this sort of consciousness network, more aware of the psionic, the psychic abilities in humans and in other extraterrestrial species, they'll pick up on this, and some of them might decide to actually make appearances to some of the people doing this meditation as a sort of acknowledgement, a little bit of a handshake, like, yes, we're here. We see that, we're thankful that you want to be peaceful about this. Here's a little show. Here's a little demonstration for, proof. So that's kind of what's behind this. And so I'm doing this meditation, and I'm probably like, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes into it. And I hear this rustling behind me, and this noise, kind of like something like chittering. And I'm like, yo, what is this? And so I'm still meditating, but I'm like, my nerves are kind of getting up.
Wait, and you're out like in the woods or something?
My front yard.
Where are you?
There is like woods.
Okay.
There are woods around me.
I mean,
So
you're
for context,
outside,
yeah,
so
I am
it's-
outside. It's not like in the woods, but there are woods like right around me.
Oh man, my skin would be crawling.
And yeah, I immediately was like looking around, like, like, because my
that's
first thought was like, wait, and even just being out there alone doing this meditation for this intention, my first thought was sort of like, am I ready for something to show up? Because it was actually kind of nerve-wracking. When you're out there alone, you don't have you don't have that, like, you're not within a group mind, as in like I had already, fully believed that there are extraterrestrial beings. And so my worldview, has already been in that headspace for a long time. And now this is the first time I'm doing a meditation where the intention is like actual firsthand contact, a close encounter of the fifth kind is when humanity reaches out and then ET, kind of responds. And so there was like this inner kind of, nervousness, fear about like, what if something does show up, Um, so that was in my mind, and then I hear this like chittering going on behind me, and I look behind me, and no cap,
Skinwalker.
there's a skunk like 10 feet away, and just walking closer, walking closer. I'm like, and what's funny is that I did realize in that moment, I was like, okay, this meditation is reaching out to non-human species, saying that we're peaceful and we want contact. That's the gist of the meditation. And so this skunk is like walking up to me, and it's getting closer and closer, and it seems like chill. It's not like, I don't think skunks would walk up to humans like in their territory, but it's like, it's coming out of the woods, and it's just chilling. It's making its little chittery sounds, and and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I do kind of make the connection. I'm like, okay, this is funny because I'm wanting to make peaceful contact with non-human, species, and this skunk is like walking up to me. But at the end of the day, I saw it was getting close. At about the point where I got 10 feet, that's when I actually stood up, and I did move locations, and I think I ended my meditation there because I didn't really want to push it. As kind as it seems. To let the skunk walk up to me, I was like, I kind of got the message. And the message was that we still have a deeply ingrained fear about animal species because of that predator-prey relationship on Earth. And even though the skunk is, they're not the predator on humans, but we're scared of them because they can put out a gassy, weapon that we don't really want to be hit with. So I realized from this experience that there is a sort of deep-rooted fear that humans have that we do have to get over. And it's that fear that is sort of, that's how the military sees it. They see it from that fear-based perspective. And, they might have some good reason, but they're also aggravating the fear. They are shooting down actively these crafts without even, without hesitating to think that, oh, this is contact with a non-human race, and instead of like communicating, we're literally just like, we're just shooting the vehicles out of the sky because we want the technology. Like it's barbarism at its finest. And that's what Stephen Greer, he continually pitches that idea. And, I have a lot of agreements, despite the other aspects of the UFO phenomenon that do suggest that there are some unhealthy elements to some of the non-human intelligence intentions. So anyway, that's my CE5 story. That's
interesting.
The one that I led on a camping trip, nothing actually happened visually in the sky. But I think that was partly because there were other groups of people around us that were not in the same agreement and intention. So that's another big part of CE5 is that you should be out in a remote location, because what you're creating is a sort of a bubble of social consciousness in which everyone agrees on the same intention of peaceful contact. And Dedrick has talked about this before. We've talked about this on the channel, is that for ET contact to be made openly, there needs to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but the good ETs will only clearly show up if we ask for it, because they don't want to break our sort of free will. The mass social consciousness is like, doesn't believe ETs are real. And so it's kind of like this unknown secret. And it also affects our spirituality and it's our consciousness. And they also know that they bring up a lot of fear. There's a natural fear reaction. And so if we first recognize that we do not want to respond in fear, we want to respond in peace, and we are willing to have peaceful contact, if that's the intention, then when something does show up, they know that they're not going to inspire a fear reaction. And in that sense, they're trying to like help us get over that and, step into a higher understanding of the universe, that we are not alone. But we do have to get past the fear. We have to get past the militarization aspect, and Jake Barber is making that connection as well. So that's the end of my CE5 monologue, my TEDx here. So thank you for watching, everyone. And if you do CE5, just be aware that animals might be attracted to that welcomeness.
It's interesting you say that, because I had a buddy out in Colorado a few years ago when I lived out there. We would go out on the Front Range, climb on some sandstone, and rip a bong. And every time we did that, animals would approach us. But normally when you're in nature, animals don't really approach you. But I think it's like, if you're lighting up, you're kind of in a different mindset if you're at peace with nature. Likewise, my dad tells me he'll go out in the morning, watch the sunrise, sip on his coffee out in the woods, and animals will approach him and stuff. So it's like when you're in that peaceful mindset, animals can sense that. That's kind of cool. It's interesting you mentioned having like kind of a bubble of consciousness, and you got to have everyone kind of on the same page, because I could imagine if you're right by a neighborhood, there's people in their living rooms and bedrooms and neighboring houses like throwing off the vibe, especially if you're in an urban area and there's a lot of people around you. So it makes sense you're in a remote area. I can think of several reasons why people from another world would have to be very cautious about interacting with us. One of the most obvious is, we're dangerous. You can get shot down. We could, obviously we're messing around with nuclear technology. If that does interfere with UAPs, I've heard stories of like some of the UAPs have crashed because of interference of us messing around with nuclear technology or things like that. Also, there could be a mandate from a cosmic government, like don't mess with developing races until they build their own UFOs, something like that. I had an experience. It wasn't CE5. I wasn't trying to do that, but one time, me and my lady were on a road trip, and we're passing through Kansas, and we actually hunker down for the night and just camp out at this national park with a lake, and you get this vast view of the Milky Way from out there in the middle of nowhere. And I was kind of standing out there, and I just kind of had this mindset, like, I felt very at peace. I was kind of excited to be camping in this new area, and I was just thinking, like, it'd be really cool to see a UFO right now. And then I was waiting outside of a public restroom, one of those campsite restrooms. I was looking up at the stars, and sure enough, I saw 3 lights, and it was like, 3 different stars kind of just moving in some kind of formation. And I'm just like, am I really seeing this right now? And it was cool. It was kind of just what I asked for. And I actually, that was like probably the only time in my life I actually got what I asked for, wanting to see a UFO. And maybe the vibe was just right. I don't know. It was just like, 3 stars moving around, and then they just kind of dispersed and went away. But I mean, like, I think I lost my camera.
Well, you should find it. Ha 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 ha. That's pretty cool. I have some experiences that I guess would classify as this, but I don't know if I'm going to share them on the YouTube channel.
Gonna tease us, just gonna flick our nipples.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Put some ice cubes on them. But yeah, I can't say like I asked for a UFO to appear over me and it appeared, but I do have some interesting experiences. I will reveal that later once I get to know you guys better. Once we hit 2,000 subs, I'll reveal it.
Ooh, I see.
So
Yeah. Get the better hit that sub. Get D-Bake's
deep experiences, the pre-memories and after memories.
I'm sure we'll get way into that, eventually on the channel.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the whole UFO consciousness field. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it can get personal.
hand.
It can get very personable. But it's honestly, if we're not trying to not trying to tease you guys in the sense that like we're just trying to say that like there's personal experiences that you have once you get into like UFOs and alternative religion and really hard deep truth seeking. And honestly, those experiences are what really kind of prove to us that like this is real. And the rest of the stuff that we talk about is just sort of like, filler information or intellectual thoughts about it. But
Yeah.
like, I do think you should look for like a very personal experience, because a lot of
Absolutely.
people, they eventually get that once they get past like just the intellectual side, they're like, okay, if this is real, I want proof. And, often it happens in states of consciousness that are irregular. And, that's kind of what we're getting to here.
Well, yeah, and I think there is a nature to a personal religious experience that is kind of private.
Oh, Magma, you dropped out. You might have to
Lost him again.
rejoin, but
Yeah, but what Captain Kirk's talking about over here, and John sees truth. Thank you for your messages in the chat. Y'all, my brothers,
Full to
see you all
you.
the time. We lost you for a bit there, Magma.
Damn it.
You were frozen, but
It's my camera. Something's up with my camera. It's always doing that. But
I think you need to feed the hamster in your computer, dog.
yeah, I know. So,
finish up what you're gonna say.
all I'm saying is there is an aspect to, I think, the personal religious experience that is private. If you feel like you're making contact with your guardian angels or personal communion with your like fragment of infinity within you, something like that, it can be deeply meaningful to you. But then you go to tell someone else, and it almost kind of devalues it as soon as you speak it, because the other person's looking at you like, oh, okay, sure, that happened, and it's like you might sound kind of crazy, even though it's a very real personal experience. I think a lot of time when we read channeling material, someone claiming to channel a being, there could be like 20% real truths in there, and then a lot of that is how their mind and their imagination is contextualizing those truths so it makes sense to them and fits into their universe concept frame, so it's that's all I had to say about that.
Okay. Yeah, so I was answering some questions that the chat was bringing up, talking about crafts. Were they shot down? Did they crash on their own? And then John Sees Truth said the EMP released by nukes knocks them down. I have a couple thoughts about both of those points. I heard, obviously, the UFO started showing up a lot more when we started setting off nukes, because nuclear devices actually bleed over into the Mirantia or the astral dimension, and that it affects beings that live in that dimension as well. So we can harm them and we can harm their environment. So now we're not just dealing with physical, destruction. We're actually, our warfare and chaos is bleeding over into the spiritual dimension too,
That's
and hurting
interesting.
spiritual beings. And they're like, we can't have this.
Have we nuked midway creatures?
That's what I was thinking. Like, have we affected midway? Have we nuked Seraphim on accident? Like,
oh my
whatever, I don't
god!
know. Like,
that's interesting, because I would think like I think one of the utilities of space is there's enough distance between worlds. It's like an insulative barrier to prevent like accidental contact between species and all this kind of stuff. But like nuclear weapons, what if you are like sending out a ripple into the spiritual realm? I don't know.
Yeah,
That's,
so
that's
it's a
pretty heavy.
gnarly thought to think about, and maybe that's why they started showing up, because they're like, these apes are getting out of hand.
I mean, people
yeah.
really kind of separate religious theology. Very much separates the spiritual world from the material world. But from the books that we read, we actually try and merge a clear understanding of how we bridge the gap from like pure consciousness, spirituality, down to like the material planets and all these different beings and civilizations. And so here's the premise. The spiritual world and the material world are not entirely separate. And the reason for that is everything in the material world, it sources from the spiritual world, as in all of the energy that is within the material world. It does come from and is supported by the ultimate like creator at the top, which emanates pure like undifferentiated spirit energy. We call it the oneness of God or the Trinity. That's like the undifferentiated sort of levels of true spirit energy. And that's like the purest form of anything that can exist or does exist. And so everything that we experience is a sort of derivative from that pure spirit reality. And so if you think about it, it's kind of like a tree. And this like trickle of energy comes from the spiritual reality. And then when it's in the time space universe, it appears in these many like manifestations, but notice there's like laws that sort of link it all back together. And that's why when we go from molecules to atoms to quanta, it starts to like meld together. And at this quanta period, then it's like we're like having these experiments which measure consciousness interacting directly with that scale of reality. And so it kind of brings and loops back around and says, oh, consciousness is actually integral with material and spiritual reality, and like mind over matter is a real thing, and maybe the universe was actually sort of thought into existence. So they're not like fully separated. There's a gradient, and that's why an atomic explosion might ripple into non-organic realities.
That's interesting. I do wonder if there are invisible to the naked eye Merontia structures here on this world. Maybe things set up by the Midway creatures. Pretty thought-provoking. Oh, there goes D-Bake. I think maybe the same thing happened to him, what's been happening to me. It's like my camera causes an internet issue where you guys freeze, my internet goes out, and I unplug my camera and plug it back in, and all of a sudden it restores the internet. Like right when I unplug the camera, it restores everything. It's freaking weird. It's like maybe the high resolution video feed is just eating up internet and it causes a hiccup. That's my theory.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think D-Bake froze for a second there.
Do you think he froze? I didn't know if he froze or if he was just giving us just staring.
D-Bake shutting down.
Rebooting. So, all right, well, he'll join back in when he can. So, let's see. What else?
We could...
Go ahead.
I was going to say we could jump into analyzing some of these images if you want, unless you want to wait on D-Bake. I'm sure he'll be right back.
Well, I guess it's a question of, do we have anything else to really kind of go over other than that next 4chan stuff with the images?
The only other thing I wanted to go over was, of course, reading a few little segments, just little snips from Imminent by Luis Elizondo. There he is.
Yeah.
Did your camera freeze up?
Yeah, some technical difficulties. The government ain't gonna tie me down, though. They can't stop the truth.
I know, they're trying. See, I think that's what it is. It's the NSA tapping into your camera, and it causes your internet to lock up.
No, I just had to call Trump real quick, and he's like, got you. He reconnected me.
That's great. Well,
What were you guys talking about?
We were gonna... We're just gonna talk. And did you have any more clips you wanted to show before we jump into analyzing these 4chan leaks?
I did want to keep addressing the chat, talking about how a craft would either get shot down or crash here. I have a couple different theories about that, such as so you have to remember there are spiritual beings in the universe and also physical ETs that could be closer to us than we think, from closer planets, so they don't have to travel as far distances. And there could be possibility of people like, how'd they have this advanced technology? They cross all the way across the galaxy and they come to our planet and they crash. Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Well, their craft could not be conditioned to our environment. Maybe they don't have water or something there, or these are like ammonia-based creatures or methane-based creatures, or our Earth gives off electromagnetic pulses like electricity, thunderstorms, that kind of stuff.
It
Like,
could be worth considering they navigate away from stars to avoid too much like powerful nuclear radiation. But
yeah,
when a nuclear blast happens on Earth, they're not so prepared for it. Like
and
it
they could
shuts off
get
their
dinged out
system.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also heard that the government uses they use radar or some type of directed energy weapon, according to Dr. Greer. He says
Mm.
they adapted radar for a different purpose and created like a direct energy weapon that would, I guess, knock these things out of the air as well. And that's what the Roswell crash was. Um, I don't know. I personally like the direct energy weapon radar ping to knock them out of the sky. I like that theory. It does seem aggressive. But it kind of makes sense, and that's what's been being said ever since the Roswell incident itself. So that
I
could
like
be a possible way.
I
But if
like
we're
duck
doing
hunting.
that, yeah, but if we're doing that, then that means these ET crafts aren't probably super advanced. You know,
Mm.
they're probably ETs that are probably close to us that don't have to travel very far distances, as opposed to like
Oh.
super advanced celestial beings that are like pure mirage or pure spirit. You're not going to
I
be able to knock
hadn't
them out of the air, you know?
I hadn't considered there could be different levels of quality to a UAP. You know, like there could
Yeah.
be the difference of a race that's settled in an era of light and life for like 1,000 years, and a race that's settled for 1,000,000 years. You know,
Billions of
they got
years.
like
Yeah.
premium materials harvested from across the solar system,
Yeah.
or the starter kit UFO. You know.
Yeah, the UFO starter kit, exactly. And we'd be knocking those out of the sky and then backwards engineering those, you know, that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
But those are some of the theories I've heard just to kind of riff off what the chat's talking about. So thank you, chat.
Thank you, Chet. I know you had some you were riffing on earlier, which I think we got a little sidetracked. But well, we're talking about CE5, and you were talking about um, Jake Barber referencing Greer and talking about CE5 and all that. And I don't know if maybe you had a few more clips to show on that, but I finished listening to that like 3-hour interview last night. He made some really interesting points. There was there was one case where he describes a large I'm trying to remember the name, but there was a large flying saucer kind of floating over a desert. This was a report coming from someone else, but apparently there were a bunch of Ford F-150 trucks underneath it on this
Yeah.
station on this platform with these cargo canisters, and the containers had these like HVAC ventilation units on it, and so it was presumed by the person who saw it, he thought could have been some drug
Is
smuggling.
it Michael Herrera or Michael?
That was it, Herrera, yeah. He assumed it could have been drug smuggling or human trafficking or something. And then what Jake Barber says, hearing that story, he knows exactly what those containers would have been for if they had the HVAC units on them. Says that was actually their psionics team. They would have a team of actually like telepaths in that container. The air conditioning is to make it nice and comfortable. It's actually a little portable base of operations inside of the cargo container. So each one of those would be like a different team of people. And it kind of acts as like a Faraday cage for external interference from sound and all that. But like, I guess the stream of consciousness can pass through any barrier. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. He also mentioned these people are recruited from other countries, like especially like more remote, less westernized cultures like Native American tribes here on reservations, or people often like Vietnam somewhere, like different corners of the globe where they might have like a small village they live in, a little more remote, and they might actually be just in their culture a little more spiritually in tune. And apparently, he claims these people like feel great pride in what they do. They feel like they're doing God's work. He also mentioned, although the military aspects of the military could be sinister, he says these people are very genuine because the UAPs don't respond to fear or aggression or anything. They only respond to light. So he says these people are like basically bathing in light. They're like in a very, very positive spiritual state. Um, So at least the psionic teams involved are good people.
Found that so weird. Well, one, I thought it really interesting how he backed up Michael Herrera's story, but actually gave a bit of a counter story to what was really happening.
Yeah, that was interesting. More lore.
It felt like it
Yeah.
actually was like two integral perspectives of the same event. And, you know,
Exactly,
coming
yeah.
from Jake, it obviously legitimizes Michael Herrera's story because there was multiple overlapping connection points. One of them being, he said, I know what those containers were for. That's for the Psionics team. And I see the confusion where Herrera, like, something with what Herrera saw, he either sensed that, oh my God, there's people in those. And then he obviously thought the worst because these military guys were being very sort of aggravant towards them. And so he's like, is this like a crazy secret UFO human trafficking op? Like, this is so wild.
Interesting.
Because obviously he's
Secret space
scared,
program
but
or
he
something.
also senses or sees that there's like people in those containers. And so that first connection, I see what he's making. So that's Michael. Now you get Jake
Wow.
saying,
A plot
like,
thickens.
he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, it was a really bad turn in the story when everyone starts assuming that the human trafficking is legitimate. But I see the mismatch here of the same story, but different interpretations because of the different sort of states of consciousness that both of these people are in and how much they're aware of this topic. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. And then I did find it a little bit weird how I think Jake really, because he had a telepathic, you know, spiritual experience, I think he kind of sees it as a very spiritual thing. And so when he sees the psionic team, I feel like he assumes that they're always in that state of mind or something, when really I would like to throw my 2 cents in that the psychic realm is kind of similar to the material realm in that you can meet very spiritual, loving beings, or you can meet very non-spiritual, selfish, self-serving beings. And so the act of getting into this altered state of consciousness is not divine. It's just another state of awareness. And then
Yeah,
it's your state of
exactly.
mind that sort of is what you tap into. You're going to tap into
You
the dark
know-
or the light.
Yeah.
You know that
The
analysis
Sith,
of
the Jedi and the Sith. The Sith can tap
yeah,
into that.
there's
Yeah.
a dark and a light. There could be demonic forces and angelic forces out there. That or as we would say, rebellious, rebelliously
celestial
aligned
personalities,
forces
yeah.
out there. Yeah. There are that CIA document on analysis of gateway process. You know, it's an actual part of I'm assuming the Stargate program or something. It's an actual CIA document on remote viewing and astral projection. But there's a really juicy part in there where it's talking about engaging with like other realms basically and encountering beings and how the beings
Yeah.
may not always have the best intentions. Like, this is trippy. Are they actually messing around with this?
The Monroe Institute had something called, I think it was the Explorer program, and it was specifically capturing repeated interactions with beings that would reoccur. Like the same beings would come back to them in their sessions, continue speaking with the out-of-body operator. They would have the
Wow.
person going out of body, and then they would have the person sort of monitoring the equipment to understand, okay, they've fully dropped into the correct brainwave state that we're used to seeing. And then they would
That's
ask
so
them
cool.
questions to their physical body that would sort of transfer in so that they could give them some guidance. And I think the person would even talk back through their physical body, you know, sort of as they're receiving information or as they're in this other like actual out of body state. And so you can find those papers, you know, from the Monroe Institute, those accounts. So that's an example of like the Monroe Institute is sort of a clear example of like, I guess, a program that displays the ability of honing these skills. So it's probably the best public example of how to train your psionic abilities and have an experience. And yeah, I mean, I personally, you know, for the chat, you know, if you guys are really skeptical on that whole psychic thing, out of body experience, in 2019, I followed YouTube tutorials and I had my first out of body experiences, and it's repeatable and it is very different from a lucid dream, and partly because you go directly from a waking meditative state into this altered state of consciousness, and it's It's really weird. And the gateway tapes and the gateway programs are trying to help you do that. Now, do I think that's like the ultimate method? Not necessarily. That's just one of the newer methods that Monroe came up with, and is much more like Western
Yeah.
scientific sort of mindset behind it. But it's still based on meditation type techniques at the end of the day. But they're all across the world, all of the ancient lineages, secret sciences, the inner sciences, the Eastern, the Western, the shamanistic angles, they're all tapping into this same ability, and they all have their own protocols and methods. And so you do have to kind of find like what's the best. What are the options? You got to read. There's a lot of books to read, and then you pick your poison and try the techniques, all that stuff. So it's all out there. It's still pretty fringe, but like you can prove it for yourself, and you should be pretty mind blown. And a lot of people
Well-
have these experiences.
Well, that's a good point, Taylor, about other cultures, because I remember um, that was mentioned in that document analysis of gateway process, was that there are numerous cultures throughout history that have claimed to have mastered stuff like telepathic communication or astral projection, remote viewing, that kind of stuff, just like getting into an enlightened spiritual state. Whether you're talking about like Tibetan monasteries or tribal shamans in the Amazon, whatever. He says there are some traditions that have really fostered that, but they may not be taking the most effective approach because they haven't been utilizing the scientific method. So it could be the case that you spend an entire lifetime in a monastery learning these disciplines, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. Whereas they're trying to very scientifically tackle, like, what are you doing to get into these states? What does your brainwaves look like, your heartbeat, your left right hemisphere synchronization, that kind of stuff. And trying to like cut that into like a fraction of the time,
Well,
to where you can
it
very
takes
much
the
streamline.
religiosity out of it, because when you have like
Mm.
an institutional practice that needs like money to support an organization and like volunteers, and then they give you the secret method, over years and years, and then you gotta climb the chain of masters to get the secret
That's right,
teachings.
yeah.
It's like a whole thing, and it's on this channel, all of us are like not interested in doing it that way. In fact, we've all left. We've experienced institutionalized sort of truth, and we realized that the search for truth is much more adventurous and profound as you kind of fully individualize. So yeah, there's a real matrix out there, and Monroe is kind of straight to the point. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not make like some fake cult religion around it. It's like, let's just get to the results. And here's some biological evidence to support, the brainwave stuff, etc. So I dig it.
And you
D-Big,
dig.
one more point I wanted to make about what you were sharing earlier. Thank you. One more point I wanted to make about the you were talking about like why haven't more people come out like this? I mean, you said this a little while ago, but with Jake Barber, in way back in the day, you were following Greer, and there's this question of why haven't more whistleblowers come out? Why hasn't everyone come out with this exposure? And Jake Barber kind of touched on that, but like Greer really kind of paved the way in a way, but then David Grush coming out, like he actually did a lot in trying to give support to whistleblowers and a little more relief. But even still, there's only so much protection David Grush can give you. Like he actually can't really help you if you're in trouble with the Navy or something like that, So the way I see it is kind of like a sliding puzzle, where you gotta like get it just right to open up a new opportunity. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there who have stories they want to tell or information they have or photos they took, things like that, but their hands are kind of tied. And it's easier said than done. I could imagine it would be difficult to just openly talk about this stuff. I mean, the Green Beret episode y'all did with Justin and Mason, I remember Mason confiding in me. He was a little paranoid about, the military, seeing him speaking on YouTube about his opinions and stuff and somehow getting in trouble for that. I'm like, he's not really saying anything classified or anything like that, but I think there's a natural paranoia that comes with the man, knowing what you're up to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, every whistleblowers need a, what is it, amnesty
Yeah.
for coming forward. I think that should be the program going forward.
Mm.
Let's hope that they're not going to go to their graves with this information. And hopefully we can get something out.
Yeah.
I do like everything he's talking about, like what you were just talking about, the different hemisync and the Monroe Institute, the actual mechanics and mechanisms behind this process. Like you said, Taylor, this is just an ability that we have. This is a regular ability throughout the cosmos. This is something that we've been deprived of because we just haven't taken the time to learn it, and we've been conditioned to, I guess, not use it. It's like when your muscle gets atrophied. I say this all the time. When you wear a cast for too long and you take that cast off, your arm looks atrophied and all scrawny. Same thing with that spiritual muscle that you have. If you don't use it, you lose it. It just dies off. So we all have this ability, but we need to start practicing it just like you work out. And you're not going to get buff after going to the gym once. You got to keep going over and over time. So I want to kind of focus on that aspect. I did like that angle where he was talking about how right brain people have this ability, I guess. Talking about how, what was it, like woman, people that are left-handed, children
and gay men.
And gay men, right?
Are more inclined to have, I guess, these psionic abilities when they're going out looking for recruiting people.
Yeah, and they tend to recruit people from like indigenous populations that have a spiritual background, such as like, Hinduism, Native American, where that this is already an accepted fact. And as a matter of fact, you would be ostracized. They'd look at you weird if you didn't already believe this. So within those communities, this is already a norm. You can already picture the Buddhist, the Hindu yogi meditating. That's normal in their culture. So it might be easier to recruit people from that community. Another thing is that the left and right hemispheres of the brain have a lot to do with spirituality. If you cut open the skull of every animal on planet Earth, both hemispheres will be exactly the same. And the only animal that you cut open the head and you see the hemispheres are not the same size as a human being. Some people's left hemisphere is larger, some people's right hemisphere is larger. And the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body. So if you're right brain dominant, you become left-handed. If you're left brain dominant, you become more right-handed. That's why America has more right-handed people, because we're more logical, masculine brained. We think about the physical reality, making money, that type of thinking, as opposed to the spirituality, emotion. We think with our head and not with our intuition, pretty much. So with that being said, and understanding how the hemispheres work, and the Monroe Institute trying to hemisync them, trying to balance them out because it knows it's imbalanced, I guess the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain each has its own separate magnetic field, and they're supposed to interface with each other through the corpus callosum, which is a very thick piece of brain matter, like a tube that connects the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. So the corpus callosum is what the electromagnetic fields, that's how they interface together. So by meditating on visual cues, internal mental pictographs, and audio cues, this internal color field, this internal space, I call it my internal color screen. You can modulate that. That's phosphorus, that's photons that you're modulating in your mind. This process can be, I guess, I don't want to say perfected, but you can get better at it. I guess you can perfect it if you're really good at it. But it's a mechanism that resides inside of us that we're not aware of as a society on the whole. I'm pretty sure the Psionics team is able to tap into this, and that people from the right brain communities, they're more able to tap into it because of that electromagnetic interfacing capability. So every time you think a thought, it's an electrical impulse in your brain. And every time there's an electrical current, a magnetic field gets generated. That's why we call it electromagnetism. So every time you think a thought, that electrical impulse creates a magnetic field. So you're a walking bioelectromagnet.
Hmm.
When you think a thought, you have a feeling. Okay, right? Every thought has feelings behind it. So you have your two brains, your electrical brain up here, your logic, and then your magnetic brain down here, your heart.
Amen
When
to
you
that.
get close to someone that you like or something that you like, your heart starts to flutter. You feel something. That's your emotional body, your magnetic body. And then there's your
Yes.
electrical masculine body up here, which processes with like pure facts, no emotions, logic, 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 money, 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 everything in squares, straight lines, organization, no feelings. And they fight each other. Societies can be either logic based or masculine or feminine based, masculine based or feminine based, logic or emotional based. And I guess this is the basis behind the psionics teams, and that's why they're talking about left-handed people, because they have a strong right brain. Females tend to have stronger right brains. Males tend to have stronger left brains. And then a gay male, like we were talking about last night, it has the right brain logic, but it also has exercised the feminine aspect of its brain too, through becoming feminine in reality.
Which I think it's probably worth saying that that's not to say that regular men can't do it. Only gay men can do it.
No, yeah.
I think it's more like when they're looking at
predisposed.
the stereotypical demographics of who's most likely within their psionics group. That was something they observed, but I think it on a healthy level. Most men should be a little more in touch with their feminine side without it having to be some like sexuality kind of thing. And likewise, I think most women should be more in touch with their masculine side.
Yeah, and I have a couple concepts I want to focus on that I think will shed some light on the matter. If Taylor, you want to pull up for the people from the Urantia book, paper 49, part 5.
Yep. Let me.
I think this part was going to help people not only understand it, because we're thinking about it from a human level, like, oh, we can do this. I want people to understand that we're part of a galactic family, a cosmic organization, and that these abilities reside within all of us on different planets. And our planet's the one that has that fluoride stare, the ooh, like we don't know what we're talking about. So I think that by understanding that this is a natural ability among all planets, then it'll start giving us more of a motivation. It'll inspire us to actually unlock it. So are you there for the people yet?
Yep. 4151.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm going to read the first paragraph and a little bit of the second paragraph, and then I'm going to jump down a bit. Okay, so this is actually talking about the different types of planets in our local sector of the cosmos. Let's get into it. Part 5, the planetary series of mortals. It will be somewhat difficult to make an adequate portrayal of the planetary series of mortals because you know so little about them, and because there are so many variations. Mortal creatures may, however, be studied from numerous viewpoints,
What's the
among
section?
which are the
You
following.
told me 41.5.
49.5, 49.5.
Paper 49, the inhabited world.
I guess I misheard that.
All the viewers are like, what the heck? Let me know when you'll do.
Okay, got it.
Cool. I'll reread it. It's not that long. So it will be somewhat difficult to make an adequate portrayal of the planetary series of mortals because you know so little about them, and because there are so many variations. Mortal creatures may, however, be studied from numerous viewpoints, among which are the following. 1. Adjustment to planetary environment. 2. The brain type series. 3. Spirit reception series. 4. Planetary mortal epochs. 5. Creature kinship serials. 6. Adjuster fusion series. And 7. Techniques of terrestrial escape. The inhabited spheres of the 7 superuniverses are peopled with mortals who simultaneously classify in some one or more categories of each of these 7 generalized classes of evolutionary creature life. So those 7 different categories pretty much think of all of the beings in our universe, put them in one group, and then you can look at this group in 7 different ways. Okay, that's what it's pretty much saying. So I'm gonna jump down to part 2 for the brain type series.
I would say this is sort of like with an MP3 file, you can sort it out by date added, by
Yes,
links,
exactly.
stuff like
Great
that.
analogy.
That's how
Yes.
the Celestials sort out the vast variety and diversity of humanoid upright beings evolving from animals on different worlds.
That's a great analogy. Yep. So right now we're gonna sort that file list by 2 brain type series. Let's see what the group looks like. The one physical uniformity of mortals is the brain and nervous system. Nevertheless, there are 3 basic organizations of the brain mechanism: the 1, the 2, and the 3 brain types. Urantians, that's us, Earthlings. Urantia is the name for Earth, so the Urantia book is called the Earth book, the Book of Earth. Okay. So the Urantians are of the 2 brain type. So we have 2 hemispheres. Somewhat more imaginative, adventurous, and philosophical than the 1 brain mortals, but somewhat less spiritual, ethical, and worshipful than the 3 brained orders. These brain differences characterize even the pre-human animal existences. From the 2 hemisphere type of Urantian cerebral cortex, you can, by analogy, grasp something of the 1 brain type. The 3rd brain of the 3 brained orders is best conceived as an involvement of your lower or rudimentary form of brain, which is developed to the point where it functions chiefly in control of physical activities, leaving the 2 superior brains free for higher engagements, one for intellectual functions and the other for the spiritual counterparting activities of the thought adjuster. So right there, it's cool. It reveals a lot about what the 2 hemispheres actually do. We say logic and emotion, but the Urantia book reveals even deeper and expounds upon that and says left is for intellectual logic, but right is actually for the spiritual counterparting activities for your God fragment. So that's that spiritual electromagnetic drawing power, what we call intuition, that non-logical intellectual, but it is a mind. It is a spirit mind. So it develops a value for every thought you have. It develops a value that you should recognize or don't recognize. Like you see the knife, and if you can't see value, you're gonna start stabbing people with it. Or if you see the knife, you take it. I'm gonna cut food with it. That's that spiritual counterparting. What counterpart for the thought form am I gonna pick? And that's how the thought adjuster can adjust your thoughts. While the terrestrial attainments of the 1 brain races are slightly limited in comparison with the 2 brain orders, the older planets of the 3 brain group exhibit civilizations that would astound Urantians, and which would somewhat shame yours by comparison. In mechanical development and material civilization, even in intellectual progress, the 2 brain mortal worlds are able to equal the 3 brain spheres. But in higher control of mind and development of intellectual and spiritual reciprocation, you are somewhat inferior. All such comparative estimates concerning the intellectual progress or the spiritual attainments of any world or group of worlds should in fairness recognize planetary age. Much, very much depends on age, the help of the biologic uplifters, and the subsequent missions of the various orders of the divine sons. While the 3 brain people are capable of slightly higher planetary evolution than either the 1 or 2 brained orders, all have the same type of life plasm and carry on planetary activities in very similar ways, much as do human beings on Urantia. These 3 types of mortals are distributed throughout the worlds of the local systems. In the majority of cases, planetary conditions had very little to do with the decisions of the life carriers to project these varied orders of mortals on the different worlds. It is a prerogative of the life carriers thus to plan and execute. These 3 orders stand on equal footing in the ascension career. Each must traverse the same intellectual scale of development, and each must master the same spiritual tests of progression. The system administration and the constellation over control of these different worlds are uniformly free from discrimination. Even the regimes of the planetary princes are identical.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and then I'm actually just gonna keep powering on for like 2 more sentences.
Okay.
It says 3, the spirit reception series. There are 3 groups of mind design as related to contact with spirit affairs. This classification does not refer to the 1, 2, and 3 brain orders of mortals. It refers primarily to gland chemistry, more particularly the organization of certain glands comparable to the pituitary bodies. So that's your pineal gland, pituitary gland right here. The races on some worlds have 1 gland, on others 2, as do Urantians, while still on other spheres the races have 3 of these unique bodies. The inherent imagination and spiritual capacity or spiritual receptivity is definitely influenced by this differential of chemical endowments. So just a little bit of gnarly revelation so that you can kind of grasp what Barber's talking about and what these psionics people are probably utilizing in order to interface with UAP. I know this
pituitary.
Yeah, I know this interview is probably shocking. People are like, what the heck? The government's channeling UFOs, which they pretty much are. Now, he's even going so far as saying being able to control UAP craft via meditation. Like, this is some heavy hitting stuff. How, if what he's talking about is real, which people are probably can't even grasp now, we're here to tell you, guess what? It is, and here's some more information so that you can understand the mechanisms behind what's actually happening. So there's some way that you can activate your hemispheric grid in coordination with your pineal pituitary gland, which is, so that's when you close your eyes and you see those dots behind your eyes, you have to remember that you don't just have 2 eyes, you have 3 eyes. You have a 3rd eye in the center. Your pineal gland is an underdeveloped eye and it's facing upwards. Once you can actually start looking through that. When you close your physical eyes and see the darkness and you're in this weird dark space, because you're starting to perceive through that 3rd eye in the center. You're actually like, you're looking through it. And now you're only perceiving like a dark room of pure photonic energy, pure like super luminal light. And when you do that, you're tapping into those different glands, the pituitary bodies, your hormonal glands. You're just tapping into that, and then you're also using visualization and thought forms with your left and right brain hemispheres to establish that communication link. So it is a possibility the government's doing, and we're just trying to shed light on how you can actually start to visualize this process so that you could do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's what you see when you lay down in bed and close your eyes and you start getting some imagery as you're falling asleep. But because of our circadian rhythm and all that, we ramp down in our brainwave frequency until we finally just fall asleep. So the trick is utilizing that as a tool, sitting in an upright position so you're not going to fall asleep, doing it not in your bedroom, somewhere where you're a little more activated, not doing it under-rested, of course, and then actually ramping down into that twilight reverie, as they call it, that like waking up, falling asleep kind of brainwave state while awake and consciously, lucidly actually manipulating that ability. That's cool, that last sentence there on the spirit reception series. Of the spirit reception types, 65% are of the second group, like the Urantia races, 12% of the first type, naturally less receptive, while 23% are more spiritually inclined during terrestrial life. But such distinctions do not survive natural death. All of these racial differences pertain only to the life in the flesh. I think it's really cool when the Urantia book drops bits of information like that on the I guess life out there and the percentages and all that. But it's interesting because it makes me think, like, if obviously the 3-brained, 3-gland type is the superior type, why even make 1-brained races? But it leads me to believe that the angelic order of beings that are tasked with planting, seeding, and like evolving life on a world, the life carriers, from my understanding, have a mandate to basically seed life on any world where the conditions are suitable for life and can carry on through its development. And so perhaps there are worlds where conditions aren't as ideal as they are here on this world, and maybe you can't get like warm-blooded mammalian type of life or whatever. I mean, there's probably orders of life kingdoms and phylums and stuff we can't even comprehend. We got nothing to compare it to. But I can imagine like a fungus species is the only thing that could grow on some weird ass world, and they're little mushroom creatures. They just got to work with what they can, and one brain races is all you're gonna get, but it's better than nothing. Um, we know that the Urantia book talks about even types of respiration and atmosphere, and there are even non-breather worlds without an atmosphere, which suffer from harsh electrical storms and bombardment from meteorites and stuff. But uh, life can still be planted there, and apparently they're even handicapped to be able to have uh, indwelt with thought adjusters. So I think they were spirit fused beings or something. But it was interesting. They have a different infrastructure in place for their survival after death and all that. Totally different from the means that we survive after death. But it's kind of cool. There's different infrastructures in place that are designed and engineered to allow mortal beings to survive after death, and that's like the whole point. Then, of course, in the Morantia life, you can get augmentations to your mind and body, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sure not a lot of people understand what you just said, but it's so
nerding out over the Urantia book.
I do have. I sent a link to you guys in the chat there. It's the pituitary and pineal glands, and the reason I actually clicked on this website was because I guess this is actually the NIH website, the National Institute for Health, and this is a specific
the
section.
National Intelligence, Non-Human Intelligence Institute.
Yeah, NHI. Well, it's funny because we're switch the letters around. It's NHI, but the second part is they call this the SEER training modules. That's why I clicked on it. I was like, oh, SEER, like is this some psychic training?
That's weird.
And so within, obviously they have a different acronym for SEER. They're not directly talking about this, but it's funny that they within the SEER training modules on the NIH website. You got this explanation of the pituitary and pineal glands, which is what we were just talking about. It said that the Urantian mortals have 2 glands. And so I think it's referencing the pineal gland here and the pituitary gland right here. So they're similar size here. And I just wanted to point out, let's see what it says here about the pineal gland. So a small cone-shaped structure that extends posterior from the third ventricle of the brain. So you'll see that cone-shaped structure in some different mythologies. There's even like a statue at the Vatican that you have that like a cone, and it's people have made this connection before that this cone is sort of referencing the pineal gland because they knew that there was a connection. Somebody knew that there was a connection between this cone in the head, and the spiritual perceptions. And so the Urantia book is sort of making that link as well. And here's another thing. Let's see. The pineal gland consists of portions of neurons, neuroglial cells, and specialized secretory cells called pinealocytes. The pinealocytes synthesize the hormone melatonin and secrete it directly into the cerebrospinal fluid, which takes it into the blood. Melatonin affects reproductive development and daily physiologic cycles. So just an example of like a very, very small gland, but it does a lot. It even, I find it interesting talking about secretions into the cerebrospinal fluid, specifically because the Eastern practices of Kundalini basically describe that there's like an energy system like waiting to be fully connected and utilized, and it goes from the base of the spine all the way up to into your head, into your brain, and they talk about it in terms of like Ida and Pingala, these like a rising energy channel and a descending energy channel, and if you then think about it in terms of like some of these biological things, it's like, okay, well, how would Kundalini like energize you? Like how is this creating some kind of energy? Is it just spiritual or is it also biological? And Kundalini is also associated with like the spiritual evolution of mankind. I personally think that it is majorly an unknown biological process that we don't naturally go through. You know, like you naturally go through adolescence, and your glands and stuff are going in high mode, and they're changing your body, they're making you grow, giving you all these new feelings. I think that the Kundalini process is almost like a secondary adolescence that is specifically tied to a lot of your potential spiritual evolution. Now, people over spiritualize it, in my opinion, in that it is very much a biological process, but in order to activate it, you actually use a lot of these breathing techniques, a lot of physical movements, mudras, and this is targeting pressurizing these systems, pressurizing these glands. All these movements are creating specific pressure points of your blood, of your glands. And then there's also this meditation aspect where you're, you know, connecting with the universe and getting like spiritual energy. And so this coalesces together into these Kundalini experiences. And what I think is happening is that your glands are like synchronizing together. And specifically in these meditations, you bring this sort of magnetic energy sensation like up the front of your body to your third eye, and then you bring it back down the back of the spine, posterior, anterior. It talks about even that stuff in this article here. Posterior, anterior lobes, and your spinal cord, you know, is also running these fluids. So why is this energetic? How could this induce an out-of-body experience? How about this? All your glands working together is kind of like a battery. Inside batteries are these chemicals that, when mixed together, they kind of create this charge, and you put the metal plates in it, these acids and stuff working together, make these voltage, power your car, or at least allow you to start the car, power your car if you got a Tesla. And so it's these actual like chemical substances that, when combined together, can create like usable energy, even in the physical world. In the biological world, all your organs working in this sort of system, you know, after you learn how to, I guess, do these specific control levers, you know, through these techniques, boom. And now you're able to tap into these spiritual altered states of consciousness much faster, or it's like easier. You have like a lot more like energy. You feel like you're connecting with the universe, and it's all connected to how these gland systems work. So that's my little secret science dump here for you guys, because I've personally studied this specifically through something called Kriya Yoga, which is meant to do this Kundalini process. And it's definitely effective, and yeah, it's pretty wild, and it's definitely a big part of my own, I guess, spiritual evolution. But I just think that people, on a surface level, we over spiritualize this. We think that all spiritual evolution is happening in the mind, then you just change your thoughts or something. But like, to get into these altered states of consciousness and have these direct perceptions, there's all these bodily movements involved to get yourself into that flow state and then start perceiving these other realities. So mind, body, spirit, we need to connect, we need to bridge the gap, we need to connect and use all of these things. That's what we're doing on this channel, mind, body, spirit. You know, mostly in these videos we're talking about mental things, you know, hot topics, reading books, and intellectualism, but there's a lot of like other practices, and you know, we're going to continue to try and bring actionable data to you on how to start that. So yeah, you guys can look it up. Kriya Yoga is one of these methods. That's Kriya, and you can learn it from books. There's some books out there on Amazon which have exercises. That's Paramahamsa Yogananda brought that from the east to the west. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, check out Kriya Yoga, mix it with some holotropic breathing, and then also couple that with some audio visual cues, and you might be contacting aliens. I dropped some pictures in the chat. If you just ripping off your guys' third eye, and back to what I was saying too, how it is actually an eye. Like, it's not just called a third eye, it's an actual underdeveloped eye that has rods and cones inside of your brain,
Really
and
interesting.
it's light sensitive. That's what creates melatonin. That's what creates a circadian rhythm system. So when the sun goes away, it senses the sun's not there and it creates melatonin, so it puts you to sleep. And then when the sun comes up, it can picks up the rods and cones in the eye, pick that up, and you start waking up, and it creates those cycles and what makes you tired and stuff like that. Um, Now we have to remember evolution, that we evolved from a single-celled organism, and in our past we went through like a reptilian phase, and we still have that brain inside of us. It's called the amygdala, and it's a little triangle that sits on top of your spine. That lizards, when people act really stupid, they call you lizard brain. You're a lizard brain. It means that you're not using your cortex and you're only using your amygdala. Reptiles don't have cortexes. They don't have this front chunk and the top hemispheres on top of their brain. They just have this little triangle. Over evolution, we developed those two big hemispheres on top of that triangle, and that's why our heads round up here. But I sent some pictures to Taychilla, if you're showing the viewers.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
And so now imagine if back in the evolutionary process, before we evolved the cerebral cortex, imagine that wasn't there. So now you just have the amygdala. I guess the third eye sits on top of the amygdala. And these lizards have their third eye exposed in the top center of their head, and it's facing upwards. And it's actually light. It's a real eye. The scientists say it's meant for predators. Like my friend Kevin
like
has
birds or
some.
something?
Yeah, my friend Kevin has some lizards that have it, and if you put your hand over their head, they can sense the light sensitive, and they'll start scurrying away because
That's
they think it's a
amazing.
bird. So it's a evolutionary survival trait that they adapted over time. It's still in the
So-
center of our brain, but we just had hemispheres that grew over it.
So because
when
we
you're
had these,
meditating,
I was just gonna say,
so-
because we have these hemispheres that grew over it, that eye, that kind of vestigial eye, became trained to look inwards. instead of
exactly.
outwards.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we're no longer perceiving birds flying over us. We're perceiving our internal magnetic fields that are generated from our hemispheres,
That's
So
amazing.
when you close your eyes and you see that dark room, you're actually looking through that third eye, and you're in that dark little space. And now all you're seeing is like those phosphorus explosions. So, yeah, that's part of the
Very
mechanical process that has to do with the psionics that Jake Barber was talking about. But do you guys have any psionics clips? Because I have something else to read, but if you have any more clips, we can go into it or not.
I don't
think
have
so.
any more clips on that. I got some stuff on the eggs, so you read what you got.
All right, I'll be quick with it, and then we can get into the eggs. This is from the Keys of Enoch. It's on the PDF page 121. Do you need it, Magma, or you can just listen? Whatever.
I'll just watch when Taylor pulls it up on the screen.
Oh, for sure. Cool. Yeah, this is another cool text of cosmic philosophy. Very technical, so it allows you to kind of see the mental images a little bit more clear. You can see an engine from afar. It's kind of blurry, but when you get close to the engine, you can finally see how the screws go in, how the different pipes and everything goes in. So that's why I like the Keys of Enoch. It's not like necessary, but if you really want to get a fine-tuned understanding of it, I highly suggest it. You got it up for the people?
So 121 of the PDF or 121 of the actual pages?
Of the PDF and the web browser.
Search. Okay, yeah. I have the searchable PDF, and this is key 207, 8-8 through 20.
820.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to start from... I'll start from 12.
Okay.
Only when man is able to be the Christ light once again will he be able to use the language of light and be co-participant in the higher worlds of light. He will then acquire the language the sons of light use, and which the first members of the Adamic race had when they originally came to the planet. And this is the reason why Enoch is speaking to the human community at this time. For the human mind is to be prepared to enjoy the dimensions of communication that were originally present for the prophets and priest scientists who walked upon the earth. Enoch told me the language of the throne works as instant communication with the infinite mind using ideographic and pictographic cybernetics. This is a language of light symbols which works with more than two-dimensional forms of graphic language. The fire letter calligraphy of the language of light alters the memory substrate of language, affecting the psychological, neurological, biochemical, and cosmological levels of thought attunement. The knowledge of this language comes from a core memory of information being shared by the higher evolution. The core memory, in turn, is controlled by a midway council and is used to produce holistic thought forms that are applicable to all planetary societies being served by a midway station. This allows for individuals of a given planetary society who are contacted to connect with the many communities of intelligence under the direction of a midway station. With these pictographs and ideographs, the Lords of Light can fuse scenario abstracts of vast consciousness orders. This enables the Lords of Light to reach many planetary worlds and reality levels simultaneously and fuse the different languages into the same scenario abstracts. So I'm going to skip forward right now. And I'm going to skip forward to 23. Therefore, the brain must be trained to handle complex ideographs and pictographs through a unique light process which coordinates all the chakra centers to the audio coupling of color and sound indexes.
Wow.
These ideographic and pictographic transmissions through multiple tracings of a light convert into a series of color cybernetical sets of phonetic sets of color. Phonetic sets of color, like phonetic, those are words. So different colors mean different words. And he's talking about images, pictographs that come in your mind when you connect with the Brotherhood species, with aliens, when you had how to communicate with them. I'm sure the psionics are doing this in some type of capacity. The process of sorry.
Multiple tracings of color.
Yeah,
Cordio color.
Oh, that's right. I'm cool. Multiple tracings of color create a cordio color control for input, which is then coordinated with the process of sensitized attunement. The light geometry changes the brain's perceptual apparatus, as well as the feeling centers of the body. That's wild, right? So creating a cordio color interface in your mind, it's saying that what we were just talking about, looking into the third eye, and you see those phosphorus explosions and modulating it through visualizations, that's a pictograph, and that allows can create an interface. It creates a control input so that you can start interfacing with the UAP.
And so one thing you have told me is those are actually phosphine explosions, actually creating light that your third eye is sensitive to. That's really freaking cool.
That's one of my favorite things to think about. So when you close your eyes and see those colors, like I see rainbows right now, just a bunch of color blotches, that is literally phosphorus exploding. So phosphorus is used in old cameras when the camera flashed, and then the bulb would explode and they'd have to redo and put another bulb in. White phosphorus is also used for those flashbang grenades when you blow it up and that brilliant white light blows up and they get blinded for a second. The element phosphorus produces brilliant light flashes. Every cell in your body works to create ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And this is literally what the mitochondria in your cells, when you eat food, it takes all the food and converts it into ATP. And this is the energy unit that your body uses. Every time you think a thought or move your arm or just breathe, any energy that is used to do those movements is called ATP. It's the gas for your entire cellular system. That adenosine triphosphate is what's floating in your brain juice. And every time you think an electromagnetic thought, that electrical impulse explodes the phosphine. And you have millions upon billions per nanosecond, according to the Keys of Enoch. And those are those phosphate explosions that you're literally perceiving, phosphorus exploding at a rapid pace. And that's why you see those color blotches. And then the Keys of Enoch says that you have to modulate those color blotches. You can't just let them go willy-nilly. You have to turn them into actual visual geometric patterns, or what he calls pictographs, scenario abstracts. And then you create a communication link and you start communicating telepathically via exchange of mental pictures.
Okay, so the implications of what you're saying is that a highly nutritious diet and decent sleep are vital to be able to have enough ATP in your mind to modulate your ideograph ideographical pictographs.
Ideographic cybernetics. Yeah. Yeah.
Ideographic cybernetics.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's I think they're doing this. I'm just gonna crank this out real quick because I feel like it's important for the viewers, and then let's jump into something else. But
Okay.
this process of reception is begun by the projection of a brightly colored iode form of light upon the face of the subject so as to trigger the necessary chemical combinations which activate the mind to receive the ideographs of communication. The projected language instruction is maintained both within the geometric center of the projected field and the receptive field simultaneously. When the mind is activated, the brain can receive new ideographic, i.e., living holographic forms, and cybernetic geometries of light, constituted by several sets of signals which are made fully comprehensible. These signals are sent through a serial sequence of rapid flashes, yet the original waveform is not changed. It is seeded into the mind of man and is not affected by the retinal image. Hence, it retains its original pattern and color, so it bypasses your retina. It's just directly into your mind. That's gnarly. Um, just as the lower galactic intelligence can communicate with the various planetary realms of intelligence through thought words heard within your mind, though not received through audible sound, so also the Lords of Light communicate through pictographs and ideographs, fully experienced within your mind, yet not subject to any retinal image. So that is the deep truth that the Keys of Enoch has that I believe connects to this entire thing of psionics. And I know, like I said before, Jake Barber kind of blew up the UFO community because a lot of them are nuts and bolts guys and they don't consider themselves in the woo-woo new age UFO community. But now he's talking like this and they're like, whoa, there's psionics teams that our government has. I know it's hard to barely get past that fact, but we're here to tell you, yes, and here is the nitty gritty. Here is the mechanisms behind what's going on here. So if you're listening to this, I hope you can walk around and spread the truth. I hope you can fall asleep a little bit easier because you know what's going on, and it also inspires you to try to figure out if you can also be a psionic. Join the Legacy Psionics program today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Well, all right. If y'all are cool with it, I can share my screen, and I would love to do a little analysis of some of these egg photos that have dropped by the anonymous leakers recently.
Oh snap!
Y'all ready
Let's
for
get
this?
into
D-Bake, you ready for this? I'm ready.
Y'all
Yeah,
ready
let's
for
go.
this?
Right, get into the next wave.
The 4chan leaks, and yeah, this is gonna be fun. And
Oh, it's gonna be super fun.
yeah, guys, I just want to mention to the chat. I know we got King Salmonfish. Looks like you got a lot of deep info here. But let's just try and keep the comments and questions. Try and focus on the video. If you have questions, it's just hard to kind of interact with the chat when we have so much long paragraphs of sort of info dumping. So we love you, King Salmonfish, but
Keep it civil, guys.
just keep just try and not dump too much info on all the other plebs in the chat. We know you're a real one, but yeah, just try and keep the chat focused on questions about what's happening in the stream and comments, and then we'll actually respond to that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So all right, that's have fun. You don't have to stay on the stream. All right, back to the stream, everyone.
Well, all right. So, unfortunately, I had to traverse into the dark depths of 4chan to retrieve these images. So I took one for the team. It's not a place I usually like to be, but I got some images here from these anonymous leakers. You can see the initial thread. This photo was shared, and there's a bunch more that have been dropped. But this one here, so there were these two initial photos that were dropped by some anonymous leaker on 4chan, and your initial thought is, well, of course, this is AI art. This is something we can do now. If it's not AI art, maybe it's CG or something, but doing a very quick analysis. So you can see, of course, the scan lines where it looks like this was a photo taken off a monitor, because obviously if this was a secure computer, you couldn't just screen share, save the image, put it on a USB file or anything, because everything would be very strictly monitored. I've heard that people working with classified computer systems, sometimes it takes a few minutes just to load up an email because the security measures in place are so thorough. Loading up a URL just is a whole process. But a few interesting things we can notice right off the bat about this image when you start to look at it is, so we got these two images here. You can see these stalactites in the background actually carry over. It looks like the same formation. So you could say, well, maybe it's a Photoshop image, and they just copy and pasted this in the background. Sure. But one interesting point I had seen pointed out by someone is, notice
You should
these.
give a little background on the actual how they came into manifestation too.
Yeah, D-Bake. What was this? What was the story behind this?
I think Tate Jilla probably knows a little bit better than me.
I mean, honestly, we should just read the first couple claims by the poster.
Okay.
I don't have a great summary. Do you have that link up, or do you just have the images?
I have this, but it's a mess to go through.
It is, yeah. You kind of have to like scroll through and try and figure out what the original comments are. But
So I heard originally like a guy posted a picture, and then somebody else started posting, but it wasn't the same original poster. Some people think he was the second person was a fraud or a fake that generated images that were fake based off the first image. There's a bunch of controversy on that. One of the anonymous, because they're all anonymous posts. One of the anonymous posters said there was also like a being in the sarcophagus like type sleeping chamber next to the egg. So there's a bunch of different things floating around, and I think there's one real one and one fake one. I'm not sure, but I didn't do too much of a deep dive on the origin story.
And I think the story as it was told is these were taken in a cavern, I believe you said in the Bermuda Triangle, although another anonymous user was saying
Antarctica.
This was found in Antarctica, but that could have been a different egg-shaped UAP that was found in Antarctica, which I think we'll get to. And that one I think very well could be fake. This one, I mean, that's really interesting. Bermuda Triangle immediately gets pretty juicy there.
So is this the first one?
Yeah, so this is the first one.
Didn't it kind of start? I thought it started with the Antarctica egg video. That's at least I have the dates. So on January 20th, there was a video posted about an alleged Antarctica crash retrieval. So I mean, we could show that as well. It's kind of basic. I have it. I mean, should I just pull up the? Let's see.
If you want to pull that up, I had it in a tab and then I closed it because I figured it probably wasn't worth showing. But you're right. We should go through all the data points here.
Let's get a copyright strike. Fuck it.
This ain't
for the viewers out there, because to help us out just in case, because our last live stream got taken down. Unfortunately, we had a lot of good and juicy stuff. Hopefully, we're going to re-upload that soon. So stay tuned. But you can help us fight all these lawsuits by buying one of our shirts. We got some new shirts, some legacy shirts. I think they look sick, dude. That's legacy across the chest. You can rep the Planetary HQ, start some conversations with your friends. Hey, where'd you get that shirt? What does that mean? Oh, I'm part of this group. We believe in changing the planet Earth for the better and trying to help everybody be there. Mind, body, spirit, greatest potential. Shirts are on the website. The link is in the description for this video. They are $30. Cost us $21 to manufacture. We're only getting $9 profit off that, and with that money, we are using it to spread the message, and we're actually saving up to start buying buildings so that we can actually have legacy centers in your town where you can go to on your weekends, weekly. You can go in there and get your mind, body, spirit right. So if you like what we're saying and you want to help others, there's people out there that aren't even conscious of the things we're talking about. Wouldn't you feel good if with your life you can reach out and get another soul conscious to this? Save another brother and sister who's kind of lost on planet Earth. If you can show them the light and be like, hey, this way, mind, body, spirit progress, the legacy, we're taking over the planet. If you could do that just to 1, 2, 3 souls, you win. You put in more than you took out, and that's the entire meaning of life right there. So you get some sick swag. and you get to contribute to hopefully the progress of other people. So help us get this building. Look it up with a shirt. They look sick. Tell your friends about it. Share the video. Give it a nice little thumbs up because it helps us reach other people. And if you haven't already subscribed, you know what to do. But yeah, throw us into this cool video.
Okay, so I got it up in the VLC media player because it's a WebM file. Do you guys want me to share my screen, or are you just gonna? I can just share it.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's a very short clip.
Okay.
But there is my window. It's kind of low res. Honestly, I couldn't glean too much information from this. So, but I think there's other interesting stuff within these 4chan threads. Just a lot to go through, to be honest. Okay, so here it is. We're playing the video. And this is an alleged egg crash retrieval. So you can kind of see it. I mean, it's just kind of, it's like,
you see it.
You know, it's like this, as if it's hanging on a rope, but it
looks like a video game. Why does it look like weird video game physics?
I couldn't even interpolate that much of the physics. It's definitely, so they're definitely filming a screen with their like cell phone or something.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of cool. It looks like they're really high up. You see the train below. I can think of
just as real as the other footage, to be honest with you.
Well, I can't tell if they're in the air or if they're like in a cave. That's what's so annoying to me.
It looks like they're way up, and that's like a mountain range.
It's like a mountain range.
Yeah.
That's how my mind's perceiving it, like a mountain range.
I guess Antarctica kind of has like peaks like that in some places.
Yeah.
This is so okay. That's the video. Now maybe let's look at the thread.
Is this supposed to be the same egg that is retrieved from the pictures that are supposedly from Antarctica or whatever?
I think so.
The same egg. Wait, what do you mean? The same egg from the? Actually, no. I'm not sure. So this was posted first. This video was posted first, and then these other egg photos were coming out on these other threads. So it's obviously it's either the same person or people are just sort of hopping on the bandwagon here. So I don't know. I can probably, I guess, try and attempt to read through some of these comments to just get like a small primer on what the claim is on sort of who's doing what here. So, okay, so the video you are about to view features a UAP recovered in Antarctica in 2022. In contrast to the recently disclosed footage from 2 days ago, the UAP in this video is of ancient origin and was discovered within a cave. AMA, ask me anything. So people are going in asking some questions. You know, how did you get this video? Whatever. He's not answering who they are, but they claim this is from Antarctica, November 2022. They did not take the video themselves personally. And somebody says, why does it look extremely similar to the News Nation video? Oh, let me share. Sorry, I can share this window with you guys so you can kind of read along. Okay. And let me zoom in. Zooming. Enhance
on the Pepe.
So, yeah, why does it look similar to the News Nation video? Same civilization, same purpose. Why now to release this? I can't answer that. Okay, so let's see. Here's more that looks to be like the original poster. What's weird about 4chan, like mentioned before, is that you can't actually confirm all the comments and posts are anonymous, so you can't actually. It's hard to confirm who's the OP, who's the original poster responding. And apparently there's something called trip codes, which is a way to like verify it. But this person did not use these trip codes, so it's technically impossible to know if somebody else is just chiming in to answer these questions.
Good point.
But that's kind of like the purpose of 4chan, you know, kind of like Snapchat where it's like disappearing photos. That was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So who did you work for? What was your last job? Department of Defense. Same task force as Jake Barber? No. Details on the object. Seems to be of ancient origin. There's no way getting inside it, but it doesn't seem to be hollow. It's not that heavy. The material is unknown, but it is some kind of metal. Why did you put civilization in quotes? What was found inside the cave was more like a military base than a civilization. I don't know what these non-human entities were doing. The place was abandoned. If you didn't record it, who did? UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. What were you doing in Antarctica in 2022? Retrieving ancient artifact or technology. We found a live, non-human sentient being within a coffin-like pod. It doesn't use cryogenics, but it has kept the entity alive.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so this is the origin post, and then later on we actually get a PDF that allegedly comes from the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, and we're going to get into that. But I think maybe there's some, see if there's any, I mean, this is interesting so far. It's not revelatory, so that's why people, are sort of complaining, kind of pretty LARPy. I guess anything that has this green stuff is when the OP is allegedly responding back, or some of these are.
Okay.
Some of this is when commenters are referencing something that was said before. So this little thing means it's a quote from another post, and they're asking, like, did you interact with it? And then, yeah. So here's another section. Any proof or documentation that this happened besides the video? No, of course, classic. Got more videos, photos, many more you wouldn't imagine. I think I will be authorized to post more soon, but for now, you have to be satisfied with this. The creature was
who's
found.
authorizing this?
Yeah, right. I think later in the threads, they actually kind of reveal that this is from contractors, that the source of this information is from contractors, and that it might even be someone just who, I don't know. I read one thing where it said, I worked on the IT team for the contractor's software that they use to manage their archives. So I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, this is weird. The creature was found in a pod. Did you look at it? I have photos of them. They are tall, 8 feet tall, white long hair and a human face, yet there's something off. The entity is alive and recuperated quite fast from their sleep.
Huh.
Queen
Oh, that's
Elizabeth
interesting.
Range Mountains. Is that where you found these things? Yes. That's why Queen Elizabeth was involved. I kept seeing people mention Queen Elizabeth. I'm like, what? Queen Elizabeth has a UAP? Well, I guess there's mountains called that.
She is a UAP.
Any word on whistleblowers coming out soon? No, but I wouldn't trust most of the ones you see on those Congress streams. There are 2 groups, as most of you know here. One wants disclosure, the others don't. Let's just say the others are presenting you BS. You're getting more info here, now. I like that. I like that kind of straightforward approach. Did you interact with it? No, but I spoke to someone who did. The entity learns quite fast. They learned English and German in less than a week. WTF.
Wow.
Also, good job, OP. Classic secondhand witness, just like the Congress people. I didn't see anything, but I know the guy. I know the guy, and he told me it's not human. So anyway, I think that's funny. Any word on other whistleblower? Oh, okay, I just read that. Let's see. All right, so there are ranking members with access to this info actively giving authorization for release. Here are 2 groups, as most of you know. Oh, other one wants to go. That's about the 2 groups. You're getting more interesting info here. Let's say I'm one of the good guys. So they're presenting themselves as the good guys. Male and female creatures, would you say they are attractive? Nice.
What?
Nice. The one we
Asking
have,
the real question.
yeah,
Always the question.
the one we have in Europe is male. I'd say they are attractive features. Strong chin, blue eyes, white blonde hair, and so on.
Oh, so
We
they're
got
like
the
Nordic
Pleiadians.
alien. Yeah.
Oh, and they were naked when they found him, so
Very attractive.
yeah. I guess, I don't know. I
Interesting.
guess, yeah. This one was naked when we found him. Any symbols on the craft
No
or anything?
symbols. No.
No symbols on the egg. Nothing. Inside we did find things. Some things with symbols is probably, but that is as far as I can go. Sorry. That's interesting because later in the post there's an egg with symbols on it, and that I would surmise that it has Egyptian hieroglyphics. I would surmise that is an edit. It's sort of like a classic. It feels classic, like.
Or I think that was a different UAP. I think.
Yeah, but it's
these
an
are
egg
different
UAP.
photos.
This
It
is
is an
all
egg
within the
UAP.
egg UAP. So this guy, yeah, it might be a different event, but I think it's like a different LARP. And this one,
Okay.
I don't even think this one said he claimed it was a LARP to start out. There's other threads that are like, this is a LARP, and then they go and give
Yeah.
photos and stuff. So actually, yeah, I haven't read through all this, but this is actually kind of interesting. So stream, let us know if you have any questions. This is kind of new to us, but it's kind of a fun potential like leak, talking about Nordics, Pleiadian Nordics found near these eggs. Did the beings have human-like genitals? Yes and no. The penis is smaller to that of a human. We do have photos of it, but
Here we go, dude. Already.
Yeah.
Third question. Can we fuck it?
Yeah, right. Always.
Fucking
Okay,
humans,
so
dog.
they're describing. I don't know if the stream is going to be tagged because they're saying these genital words. So he's describing the scrotum here. Did he talk through vocals or telepathy? He can do both, yet the second form only works with some of our teams. Some of the people who interacted with him didn't listen to his telepathic communication on their heads. According to him, it has to do with acceptance.
Oh.
Okay, sounds like he
Okay.
needed a mental consent to connect. Acceptance is a great trait. Can you let us know anything that they said? Okay, acceptance. We kind of went over that with the free will idea. Like you have to make you have to be willing to make contact, and if you're scared, that's going to inhibit contact. Because I think if you're too scared and they try to give you a message, and if they have to basically increase their power level to make sure the message gets to you, and at that point, I think it becomes like it's kind of fearful. It's like a pressure being induced into your mind, which at that point they kind of feel like it abridges the free will of the person to not listen to what's being said. Also, I don't know, maybe humans just have when telepathy is projected at them, maybe it starts to put them in an altered state of consciousness, and it's not a good idea to like force it if they don't let it happen. Maybe some of the memory issues caused in abductions are because they are being forceful and they're actually trying to project like a mental smokescreen and sort of break into the psyche by manipulating, the gland systems and some crazy mental power. Okay. How did his voice sound? According to the astrobiologist I spoke with, the voice sounds like your own. It's strange, he basically said. It sounds like when you're thinking a monologue. Oh, this is how does the telepathy sound when you're being talked to? It sounds like your inner monologue, kind of. Can you let us know anything he said? Many things. He was born here 700 years ago. He says the closer we got to understand God was the corpus hermeticum. That's hermeticism.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Kabbalion is an example of that category, although the Kabbalion was written like in the 50s, unless it was actually rechanneled from an older text.
Yeah, I think the Kabbalion was supposed to be based on older teachings transmitted through, I believe, a secret society.
Yeah, he attributed it to the three initiates, but it was within like William Walker Atkinson's kind of thing.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
This is a huge red flag. You already know that's bullshit.
What's bullshit?
It's going off emerald tablets, kind of.
Yeah, like come on. 700 years ago, the highest form is a corpus hermeticum. If this is a real alien and knew anything he was talking about, it wouldn't be this stupid.
Talk about the Urantia book.
Yeah, bring up at least the keys of the Urantia book. Like, come on, bro. Like this sounds like some.
Yeah, but he wouldn't know.
Fool.
He wouldn't know about that if he was born 700 years ago, and we're just waking him up out of stasis.
Oh, you think he's been asleep the entire time?
The Urantia book is newer.
I mean, we don't know that, but they said they woke him up out of stasis.
He was asleep during the Urantia revelation.
And then he tells them allegedly that he was born here 700 years ago. So he could have been in stasis for quite a long time.
Okay, I'll give you that. If he was asleep the entire time, I was under the impression he was waking up, going to sleep, doing a thing, going back to sleep.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, nothing about corpus hermeticism. The Kabbalion basically links that to, we were saying Hermes Trismegistus, contemporary of Abraham, being Melchizedek. So if Hermeticism is a sort of a downline of the Melchizedek teachings, It is. I mean, the Kabbalion itself is a pretty good conception of God. So if that's what
So
Hermeticism is,
1300. He was around 1300,
what?
1200s, 1300s. That's
Yes.
supposedly when he
Oh, I
was
see. When he
born.
was born. Born here. Oh, that's interesting. Born
Yeah.
on the planet.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, he
So
was born here.
he considers us selfish and childish. He says we were happier during his time. Can't tell you more than this. Their race saved us millions of years ago from our creators who basically engineered us to serve him. Earth
Yeah.
should
Like
be treasured. It's a
Anunnaki
miracle.
angle.
Yeah, they're definitely that definitely plays into the Anunnaki. We're the slaves of the Anunnaki thing, which we know that that's not entirely correct. Although I do think it's possible the Sumerians thought that because the rebellious staff got up to some crazy power dynamics in the way that they led people. So maybe they did kind of play into that,
Hmm.
the rebellious staff, to manage the resources and mine stuff. Who knows? Let's see. Info on origin, culture, and reason to be here or there. We're still trying to understand their origin. His notion of space and time is different from ours. They came here as space missionaries. When they arrived, another advanced race was already here. This other race created Homo neanderthalensis to serve them and help them take Earth's resources. However, it was a failure, and Homo sapiens were created later on. When the space missionaries arrived, they entered into a war with the other race to save us. Since then, they have been protecting us. In fact, back in 1975, they stopped a nuclear war. The other race, according to the entity, represents what we could become if we don't change. Advanced oppressors with no spirituality to guide us.
Hmm.
Okay.
Their last conflict
If
here on
we-
Earth occurred
that's-
in
yeah.
1561 during the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. Okay.
That makes me feel like a LARP because this whole Nuremberg thing
I'm saying
has come up recently.
every angle that he's coming is like
Yeah.
a armchair
Yeah,
conspiracy
I do
theorist.
agree.
Like,
It's not nothing about this is like new.
it's not revelatory now.
Yeah.
So I actually got to get going in about 20, 25 minutes here.
Same here. Same here.
I would like to kind of lightning through an analysis of these photos
Sure,
before
yeah,
I
we'll go into
leave.
the photos.
Okay, I got my screen shared here, and then, of course, y'all are free to continue.
No, I'm gonna
Go
probably
on
head out
without me.
too. Do some family food things.
Yeah. So I got these photos pulled up. So this was the first. Let's see here. So this was. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So a few points I wanted to make. This was the first one. I think dropped by a different anonymous poster. This might have been a different UAP in a different cavern, but a few interesting points I wanted to point out was this rock outcropping right here is actually, you see the same rock outcropping from a different angle. So I can kind of go back and forward here. You can see like the shadows are being cast differently, so that really does kind of look legit, like that's a real setting. Now, maybe this was a real photo and they did an AI image or something over it, maybe. It's also interesting these markings that appear on this. So that was, here's an analysis somebody did, pointed out some similarities to these symbols. These are hieratic numerals, which was a pre-Semitic Egyptian kind of post-Egyptian kind of script, which is interesting because here's kind of the angle I want to take on this. If this is real, could this have been an actual, like, the language of the cosmic government, or a language that was designed for us to teach us how to use language or something like that? That's kind of interesting. Like, if that's true, what if this is a craft used by like Edentia or something, and if not, at least some kind of celestial craft? I think that's pretty interesting.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Like a
A
craft
quick,
from the universal government, a Mirancha type craft or something.
yeah. What if that would be pretty wild?
And that looks exactly like the Hebrew fire letters that J.J. Hurtak talks about. I was just reading
Yeah,
the passages, and that looks
and
a lot like the Hebrew fire letters. Yeah.
yeah, and her talks about Hebrew kind of being a sacred language, so it could have been something kind of
Egyptian,
gifted.
Sanskrit. Yep.
Yeah, it could have been something kind of gifted to us for us to work with. Maybe if it's not an exact representation of the galactic universal language or whatever, maybe it's some kind of close offshoot, some kind of unique script we can use off of that. You got like a numeric system. So I guess these are all numerical values. What's being depicted here, which is interesting, is that a serial number or something. What is the message? That would be really interesting if someone could break that down.
Yeah, and
So
we know in
something
Hebrew every letter correlates to a number too, so you can look at it
that's true.
numerically
That
and phonetically.
gematria.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a few other points I wanted to kind of breeze through real quick. These were the other photos dropped, I believe, by someone else. Now, these are supposed to be taken from a Chinook helicopter, and
Chinook.
Chinook, thank you, and pretty interesting. You see some trucks down here. You see the egg right here. Some people standing around.
It's a
Now,
goddamn video game.
yeah, if I'm to be real skeptical, I could say the terrain could be a photo scan, something like that, or even an image. And the way the people are standing here idly kind of makes me think that's like a 3D model of a human just kind of placed standing around. Maybe not, but I know like on CG Trader and stuff, you can purchase for like $50 or even cheaper assets of like military vehicles, place them in Unreal Engine or something. Could have
Yeah,
added
one
some
of these
effect.
photos taken, those Humvees, we haven't used Humvees in fucking
True.
centuries,
True.
decades.
That's a good point. Now this is the one that pairs with what you were just reading, Taylor.
But yeah,
These
this is
photos.
allegedly the pod that they found him in.
Yeah,
There's like
so
this
we got
crate looking thing.
the eggs in the
The
cavern.
aliens have small peepees. Haha.
Yeah. This is supposed to be a photo of hieroglyphics in the cavern, I
That,
guess.
oh, how compelling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fucking
right.
some pixely looking
pixelization.
stuff.
Yeah.
And here is the kind of bathtub looking coffin this dude was found in, this ancient dude. Now, here is my immediate.
Is that a pyramidal top?
That looked to me like
Ooh.
a
But
like
scroll
some.
down to the second look on. This doesn't look like there's like a covering over them. They're kind of
I
angled
assumed
up.
that was an indent, but if that's the closed box, I
Yeah,
do see it looks kind of like a four-sided
Yeah,
maybe. Well,
convergence of
because
the
right here,
triangles.
doesn't that
right
kind of
there,
look like a head,
the head. Yeah, you can kind of see it.
like he's
Uh,
exposed or something?
Mhm. So it might
So
be the opening. I might be looking at it. You know how it looks open or closed depending
here's
on.
here's my skepticism here compared to this image where you can actually see very detailed rocks. This kind of looks like a 3D model, like that's the texture stretched over with a normal map, kind of faking some shadows, but that kind of looks like some texture stretching right there. Now, it could be an illusion, maybe it's real, but that's my skepticism right there. And then, of course, there's this document, which Taylor, I know you have some interesting points. Before we go into that, I just wanted to read this before I dip out. This is from uh, Imminent by Luis Elizondo. There are a few little snippets here where he mentions other cases of egg-shaped UAPs. So right here it says, given Given what we knew about Russian and Chinese capabilities and the locations and nature of some of these intrusions, the ET hypothesis actually seemed the most viable explanation for some cases. This was clearly true for a series of encounters involving the Nimitz carrier strike group in November 2004. At the time, the USS Princeton, an Aegis-class guided missile cruiser, escorting the mighty aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, detected a large number of maneuvering objects that appeared to be descending from low Earth orbit. They were dropping vertically from extreme altitudes at fantastic speeds to around 20,000 feet, hovering briefly, then instantaneously accelerating, sometimes to extreme speeds. After several days of observation, two U.S. Navy FA-18s from the Nimitz managed to intercept one of these strange craft at close quarters in conditions of perfect visibility. For Navy Commander Dave Fravor, the 48-feet-long, wingless white craft he observed from the cockpit of his FA-18 was so radical in behavior and appearance, so vastly more capable than any known aircraft, it seemed clear to this high-ranking officer that his fellow pilots that it was not from this world. Before the day was over, this amazing noiseless, almost egg-shaped vehicle was seen by 6 naval aviators, tracked by multiple radars on multiple platforms, and videotaped by an advanced military infrared targeting system. During these encounters, the object did things heretofore deemed impossible for any aircraft, demonstrating unprecedented speeds and maneuverability and surviving forces that would destroy many times over any aircraft or missile made by man. To date, nobody has been able to offer a credible, conventional explanation for these astonishing events. And a few more little references here. If you really dug into a case, you discover details with modern-day relevance. Take the case of Lonnie Zamora. D-Bake, I know you were looking into this one. A police officer in the small town of Socorro, New Mexico, about an hour south of Albuquerque. In April 1964, Zamora chased a speeding car through the desert. Around dusk, he spotted what looked initially like a car wreck in a nearby arroyo, which I gotta say is a great skate spot there in New Mexico, or ravine. He stopped his vehicle, radioed his location in, and advised the radio operator back at the station that he would investigate the object. He drove closer and stepped out of his police car. From his new vantage point above the arroyo, what had looked like an overturned vehicle now resembled a large egg or tic-tac-shaped object with a metallic white surface, spindly white landing gear, and some cryptic writing on its side. That's when Zamora observed 2 figures dressed in white uniforms nearby. Seeing Zamora, the pair dashed aboard the vessel. Outwardly, the craft had no visible means of propulsion, but it nevertheless rose from the ground with a roar, spewing blue-orange flames and leaving behind scorched vegetation in its wake. This event fits the profile of the quintessential close encounter case. Zamora, a police officer, a trained observer, a man of faith, and a solid local citizen, was viewed as a highly credible witness. But if you didn't know him, you might feel compelled to dismiss the case. After all, who's to say that this lone witness in a remote location didn't make the whole thing up, aided and abetted by his fellow small-town citizens? And it kind of goes on with some credibility. There's another case here. April 1964, the FBI reported finding a downed craft that was shaped like a butane tank and about as long as a telephone pole. The witness, who claimed the object narrowly missed his father's farmhouse in Socorro, New Mexico, was deemed sober and frightened. The so-called butane tank report is from the same week as Lonnie Zamora's sighting of a white egg-shaped object that blasted off from the desert floor. Tic-tac-shaped UAP are not new. They are possibly very old technology. They, whoever they are, have flown them for 60 or 70 of our human years, at least. Egg-shaped or lasagne-shaped vessels defied physics when we were oh so proudly building our second generation of fighter planes. And then finally, one last little blurb I'll read here was from Chapter 5, Writing on the Wall. When Lonnie Zamora peered into the arroyo in Socorro, New Mexico, back in 1964, he saw an egg-shaped object with some sort of markings or insignia on its side. He was strictly warned by the Air Force not to share that knowledge with civilians, and he kept his word. Similarly, numerous witnesses associated with the 1947 Roswell crashes told government officials they saw hieroglyphics on various pieces of the debris, but they were told not to discuss this publicly. Witnesses of the UAP encounter at Rendlesham Forest in 1980 also saw similar symbols on the craft. There are many other examples like these, whether it be French cave paintings, Sumerian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphics, or Old Hebrew in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Writing is a universal way for humans to communicate with each other. Does this logic apply to UAP? Did we learn this at some point, that non-humans who control UAP? Do the mysterious markings on crashed UAP broadcast some sort of profound universal message? Or are those messages far more practical? Are they just simple safety warnings like danger, don't touch? And he goes on talking about angels and stuff,
Enoch,
which is pretty cool. Yeah. But that was really all I wanted to bring up there. I thought that was kind of fascinating. Why are there hieroglyphics on this? And could this have just been an accurate 3D model made by someone who is familiar and well versed with all those accounts?
Story. Yeah,
and they tried to recreate
Yeah.
it. But
or
that kind of
or
looks legit.
the reason that this image is say this is real, and the reason it's being leaked now is because this was the next planned leak by like the deep state. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, let's give them the egg ones next. it's like a drip feed. These
Oh, okay, I can
whistleblowers
see
go
that.
through this
Yeah,
Dopser
yeah.
stuff, and then it's like, okay, you can talk about this, you can't talk about this, you can say that name. It's like, okay, now we'll give them the egg encounters, and so it's like we'll get them used to this, and then this, and then this, and then maybe eventually we get to aliens or something, and then that's when the
Yeah,
narrative really hits, where they reveal, here's the aliens that are bad, and we need more money to defeat them. That's, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
That's just the
I've heard the
angle.
theory that maybe it's been like you say, drip feeded through Hollywood sci-fi and stuff like that to condition the public over a period of time, 50, maybe 100 years, whatever, a generation, like raise a generation to be a little more comfortable with the idea of intelligent beings out there from other worlds. Maybe there's some truth to that.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do 100 more episodes to cover it all.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
do you guys want to have any last hard hitting points? Because I got to bounce out of here.
Same.
Because I got 100 things more to talk about, but
Right.
I don't
There's
think I'll be
tons.
able to do it in
We
this
could.
episode.
There's
100
even.
more
We didn't get
episodes.
to the United Nations Space Affairs alien interview PDF, but
Ooh.
That PDF, that's right.
Yeah,
I guess we probably
so-
don't have time to read it quite yet, but Taylor, I know you had some interesting analysis of this, which I got to say right off the bat, there were some kind of red flags just in the this the general message and the theology portrayed here was very much that Hermeticism, Emerald Tablets. I mean, I think the Kabbalion's actually a really cool book. There's a lot of truth there, but I have some kind of skepticism about the legitimacy.
to talk about Hermeticism in this PDF. Well,
I'm not
Magma-
sure. I haven't read it yet. So.
Magma's
Also, kind
frozen.
of corny how they call him HI number 3. Oh, am
Oh,
I?
you just froze for a second. I was curious. Did they
Oh, am
mention
I still here?
Hermeticism in this PDF?
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, they do somewhere around here. He says.
I mean, it does kind of fit. Like, this PDF came like multiple threads later, so it's weird that it does kind of fit with the original post. So if somebody is LARPing and multiple people are sort of playing into this, they would have like read the original interview, like written down some of the bullet points, and then made this PDF to make sure it like hits those elements. So it's either
That's a good point.
either that, or this is actually real information from this United Nations Outer Space Affairs like classified set of information. Now, I mean, I would definitely like to. I don't know how much time you guys have. We might not have time to read that. I can.
Unfortunately,
I
not.
can. I mean, maybe should we just wait to read this and then go into my analysis of the actual PDF file?
We could, because I know you
Down to that.
had some interesting points about this PDF.
Yeah, we can
file.
even give the people an emergency live stream during the weekend if anybody, or during the week. if
Yeah,
anybody's looking to it.
we could do that, and then later, like D-Bake, you were saying, doing the live streams, and then videos, cutting it out as videos, and then maybe making one compilation video of all these points. Because I know we covered a lot today, so we could probably cut out some of the relevant points about these leaks and all that.
What
Well, we can figure all that out.
What
but-
is this bit? I'm just curious. At the end, where the current that last sentence on your page says the cosmic egg represents this universe, or even better, the sphere on which it
Yeah.
resides. Are they making like
So-
is this explaining like why they chose the egg shape for the craft or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. So here, I'll at least read this page because I thought that was
All
kind
right.
of
Well, I gotta go. I don't think I'll be able to read this.
Okay.
It's
So,
okay. We'll end it. Maybe Magma and I will just prep up, or we'll boost you guys to get excited for the next live stream. But yeah, D-Bake,
Yeah,
if you want,
we'll
if you
do
want to
another
dip out, we
analysis.
can.
I'm gonna head out and say bye to the people. Thanks for tuning back into the channel. Planetary headquarters. Always tune in. Even if you have not hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you hate what we're talking about, make sure you hit that like button. If you like what we're talking about, hit that like button. And go check out our shirts. If you really dig what we're talking about and you want to help other people understand the same thing, you can help by contributing by buying a shirt. And you can look sick and you can keep the kingdom getting built. So listen to my two brothers kill it. Wrap it up right now. I gotta go take care of some family stuff. So I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in again.
Take it easy, D-Bake.
Peace.
Have a good Sunday. And I likewise have to dip out. But for you, Taylor, I'll read this last little bit here. The interviewer asks, we already established in our studies that the alphabet used is similar to that of cuneiform from the Sumerian civilization. Is it connected somehow? NHI number 3 says it is connected to Sumero. In parentheses, NHI uses the ancient name of Sumeria here. But it's not the same. It was my people who taught such civilizations how to write and read after the fall of Aztlan, possibly Atlantis, but the interviewer never asked what Aztlan meant. Nonetheless, you can try to find out the truth by yourself since you claim to know so much. Redacted. Interviewer, I'll move to other questions. NHI number 3, please do, thank you. Interviewer, why egg-shaped UAPs? Does the shape influence the flight in any way? NHI number 3, your people lost their capabilities to see symbolism in nature a long time ago. The egg is present in so many of your legends, and yet you refuse to see majesty of such a simple biological vessel. I do think that's kind of a cool answer. Continue. The cosmic egg represents this universe, or better yet, the sphere on which it resides. We live in the mind of Alet. Alet means, according to the NHI, Divine One, or God. In a sea of spheres, each containing a universe. Sometimes these spheres collide and cause disturbances in reality. We use the egg shape because once we're inside the egg, we become the macrocosm. Interviewer, we have a theory quite similar to that line of thought. It's called multiverse theory. Did you study our theory? NHI number 3, it was us who gave your skeptical scientists this theory to begin with. Your scientific community is no different from the Roman Catholic Church during your 4th century after Christos, Greek title for Christ, it means anointed one. Redacted. What do you mean by that? We're not fundamentalists nor the Inquisition, interviewer laughs. NHI number 3, yet you refuse to accept the possibility that this universe was emanated from life, from sentience itself. Random occurrences do not exist. In fact, if you told your colleagues, those not involved in this project, that I exist, that you spoke with me, you'd probably lose your credentials. And it goes on. It's actually a pretty quick read, all this here, but
actually, I mean, everything that was said right there, it does, in my mind, that is like an entry level conversation that you might have with an alien. Yeah. Especially being like, they're not going to be able to drop like crazy deep information if your questions can't go very deep, like if they're doing a Q&A. And so all of those answers were actually like, I mean, it wasn't like crazy revelatory, but which makes you go, okay, somebody in the UFO / esoteric field could basically make this up. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to read more of this. Even when he said the fall of Aztlan, D-Bake has even mentioned the Mazatlan is like a name of a people group, and it's sort of like they say they're sort of insinuating that they came from the previous civilization of Aztlan, the Mazatlan or something.
Like
D-Bake has mentioned that. Yeah,
the Aztec idea of Atlantis.
Well, I don't know. D-Bake has used that term recently, and I just find it a little bit weird that we just read that term. That's the only time I've ever heard that term. D-Bake mentioned the Mazatlan, and then this just mentioned, Aztlan.
That's true. Well, I guess we can do. I gotta dip out. I guess we'll do another.
We'll call it here, guys. But thanks everyone for joining the stream. Hello, Wendy. Thanks for waving at us. Welcome. We're actually just ending the stream. We are, though. I think we'll probably cover this NHI interview PDF. It'll probably become its own episode. We'll just hone in on that. And So, any last words, Tyler, for the stream?
The truth is out there. Stay skeptical, but stay curious.
Awesome. So. We'll see here. Like I said, thanks for being here, everybody. Right now we're sitting at about 12 concurrent viewers. So that's what some of these streams have been in the past. So we got the 12, that number there, that sweet spot.
The anointed 12.
The chosen.
Thanks for watching, guys. So, I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. We'll dip out here. So